The story begins in a traditional Japanese house surrounded by pristine waters and lush greenery. Inside the house, a young boy called Minato follows his grandfather while holding a pot in his hands. After they enter a certain room, the boy's grandfather helps him place the pot on top of a high shelf. Then, the old man gives Minato some snacks to put on the shelf as well. As the little boy places the packets on the shelf, a little girl in a nearby room turns around as if she sensed their smell. Soon, she rushes into the room, catching Minato's attention. While he's distracted, the girl sneakily nabs the snacks off the shelf before running away from him. Minato quickly turns around and catches her in the act, but the little girl flashes an adorable smile at him before disappearing into thin air. Thinking she was a ghost, Minato gets terrified, but his grandfather reassures him that the girl he saw is very real. Minato's grandpa explains that he can see things that most people normally can't, so he was able to see the young girl, who is a peaceful spirit that has lived in their house for a long time. Several years later, after Minato has grown up, he moves from his granddad's house to an abandoned house once owned by his distant relative. As Minato walks towards his new house, a young man called Haruma feels surprised to see someone new move into their neighborhood. Meanwhile, Minato reaches his new house, shocked by its incredible size. A dark aura wafts out of the house's depths, which makes him feel unsettled. However, Minato shakes off the feeling and tries to open the gate with his key. As soon as the key makes contact with the lock, a mysterious power appears and drives off the dark mist. Surprised, Minato checks the note and key in his hand and sees that the notes he wrote have somehow disappeared from the paper. Then, a strong wind picks up out of nowhere and blows the note away from his hands. After flying through the air, the note lands on top of a secluded shrine, before the rest of the writing fades completely from its surface. Deep inside the shrine, a pair of intimidating eyes opens itself to the world. Back in the house, Minato sets down all his luggage and makes notes of all the cleanup chores he needs to do. While speaking to his mother on the phone, he wonders why nobody bought the big house despite its location and size. His mom explains that several interested buyers have visited the house, but after getting there, they all left without an explanation. Minato nods but forgets about this confusing detail as he completes cleaning up the entire place. Then, he starts walking towards the garden, but he notices some flowers lying on the floor. Minato gets confused since he doesn't recall bringing any flowers, but he notices a strange creature spying on him from the garden's bushes. Sometime later, the gardener arrives, and after a few hours, he finishes cleaning up the entire garden, so he begins discussing where to plant some new trees in Minato's garden. Minato thinks he shouldn't plant anything new since he's only temporarily staying in someone else's house, so the gardener agrees. Suddenly, a dark aura gathers around the gardener's shoulder, causing him incredible pain. As Minato notices the man's discomfort, a wind blows through the house, which causes one of his notes to fly into the gardener's shoulder. As soon as the note makes contact with the man, he stops feeling the pain. While the man celebrates his sudden recovery, Minato realizes that his note has once again lost all its writing. Then, he sees a bunch of herbs lying on the floor nearby and wonders if the gardener brought them over. The gardener reveals that he didn't bring any extra plants with him, leaving Minato extremely confused. The next day, Minato wakes up and heads outside to get some fresh air from the garden, but then he sees a clump of raspberries presented to him right outside the door. This time, he spots a strange creature leaving the area, which reminds him of the little girl from his grandfather's house. Minato finally realizes that a special creature has been bringing him these gifts just like that girl, so he decides to head to the market to buy some offerings. Once he returns, he takes out some sweets and drinks to present them as a sign of thanks. After Minato takes out all the gifts, a mysterious fox arrives at his garden, tracking down the delicious scents. Then, the fox reveals its true form to Minato and apologizes for intruding on his property. Shocked, Minato wonders why the white dog is talking to him. The fox explains he's not a dog. His name is Yamagami, and he is the god of the local mountain. Yamagami wonders why Minato is so calm after seeing him. Minato explains that he's simply feeling bad for him, since he was kind enough to bring so many gifts for him. Then, he offers up the sweets and drinks to Yamagami, who digs in without hesitation. While Yamagami enjoys the sweets, Minato offers him some alcohol as well. However, Yamagami asks him for normal water since his powers are too weakened to withstand the alcohol. Minato agrees and gives him some store-bought water, which Yamagami enjoys as much as his natural spring water. Then, Yamagami thanks Minato for saving him, revealing that his powers dispelled some evil spirits that were draining away his power. Minato feels confused since he doesn't recall fighting any spirits, but Yamagami explains that the writing on his notes contains a special power that can dispel evil spirits. Finally, Minato realizes why his writing always disappeared after all those supernatural events. Suddenly, the gardener returns to his house to get some tools he forgot in the garden. Minato feels embarrassed by the strange Yamagami sitting around, but Yamagami explains that normal people cannot see spirits like him. As expected, the gardener leaves without noticing anything strange, so Minato returns to pouring more water for the fox. This time, he gives Yamagami a bottle of sparkling water, which gives him a big surprise. Still, Yamagami ends up enjoying the fizzy bubbles in his mouth. While he continues to drink, Minato wonders why his words hold the power to drive evil spirits away. Even Yamagami doesn't know the exact cause, so he asks Minato if people have always complimented his calligraphy skills. Minato nods, explaining that his family used to run an inn. Back then, a customer noticed Minato's calligraphy on the inn's nameplate and told him never to take it down, even suggesting that he make one for his own house. After that, the customer paid the young boy to create a similar piece just for him. Ever since then, Minato has started making nameplates as a hobby. He proudly shows a couple of his pieces to Yamagami, who tells him to hang them up around the house. Once Minato hangs up all of the nameplates around the mansion, they light up and create a square barrier around the area. Minato is shocked that his writing could hold so much power, but Yamagami tells him that he can become even stronger if he trains it. A few days later, Yamagami returns to Minato's house to gorge himself on some more sweets. After eating them, he shows off his recovered power to Minato. Unfortunately, Yamagami's brilliance is too much for him to bear, so he tones it down. Meanwhile, in an abandoned facility, two evil spirits lunge towards Haruma, who rapidly chants some strange words right as the spirits are about to reach him. Haruma finishes his chant, creating a blue barrier that blocks them out. Instead of attacking again, the spirits give up on Haruma and escape outside the building. Despite the dangers of fighting such evil spirits, Haruma runs out since there's a chance the spirits could attack an innocent person in the nearby market. As he chases after the spirits, Haruma notices Minato walking right around the corner of an alley. Haruma has no time to warn him, so the spirit crashes head-on into Minato. To his shock, the spirit is the one that gets completely pulverized. After that, an orb drops to the ground. No one notices the ball, and instead, Minato feels upset that his shopping list has disappeared once again. Minato starts complaining about his list to Haruma, who wonders if he wanted to buy trash bags or something. Thankfully, Minato was indeed looking for trash bags, so his trip to the market is saved. He thanks Haruma and rushes off to buy the trash bags, while the strange orb silently slips away into the streets. Meanwhile, back at Minato's mansion, Yamagami takes a look around the deserted garden, and he uses his powers to restore it. Afterward, Minato goes out to check out the garden, where he finds its waters restored and the greenery completely fresh. Minato thanks Yamagami for his help, but then he realizes that the poor fox shrank down after using so much power. A few days later, Minato returns home, expecting to see Yamagami in his garden. However, he's shocked as Yamagami appears in an even tinier form than before, along with 3 other animals accompanying him. The small Yamagami explains that these martens are his 3 familiars called Seri, Utsugi, and Torika. Minato offers some sweets to the minions, who start gulping them down. Watching them devour the sweets, Minato tells the small animals to have as much as they want. After some time, they finish eating the sweets, and Yamagami returns to his normal size from the fulfilling meal he just had. Then, he notices Haruma standing outside the mansion, so he tells Minato to get the door. Outside, Haruma trembles as he feels an incredible presence within Minato's house. When the door opens, he immediately asks Minato if he can come inside for a chat. Inside, Haruma explains that he's a professional exorcist belonging to a government agency. Then, he asks Minato if he used his incredible power to vaporize the evil spirit from the market. Minato recalls the incident, so Haruma explains that he has lately been dealing with a lot more evil spirits than usual. For the sake of his job, he asks Minato to make him a talisman with his power. While Minato feels confused, Yamagami tells him to just write down another shopping list for him. Minato asks Haruma if he really wants a shopping list, which leaves him completely stunned. Haruma wonders if Minato's shopping item contains some insane illegal goods, but when he starts listing out everyday items like tea and toilet paper, Haruma spits his tea out in outrage. Once Minato finishes writing the list, Haruma notes that it contains a mysterious power. Meanwhile, Minato feels tired for some reason, so Yamagami reminds him that he just used a lot of power. Finally, Haruma forks out a huge wad of cash to pay for Minato's precious shopping list. At first, Minato refuses the cash, reminding Haruma that he just wrote down some simple words. However, Haruma refuses to pay him any less than his worth, so Minato reluctantly accepts his payment. Still, he offers one last gift to him as thanks for the generous payment. Minato draws a pentagon symbol on Haruma's hand, explaining that it's something related to an exorcist's line of work. Just then, Haruma gets an urgent call to deal with a case, so he quickly rushes out of the house. Once he reaches the target side, he finds his colleagues cornered by a huge evil spirit they've never seen before. Haruma charges straight towards the spirit, but the spirit turns around and it's about to devour Haruma. However, to his shock, the pentagon on his hand completely obliterates the spirit, showing the depths of Minato's true power. A few days later, as Yamagami's visits become a normal part of Minato's life, the poor man calculates his expenses from all the gifts. After calculating the costs, Minato realizes that a jobless teenager like him cannot cover for the other jobless slobs shamelessly gorging themselves on world-class delicacies in this garden. Even though Minato tried feeding them some budget stuff, Yamagami's snobby little familiars would get clearly upset, so he had no choice but to give them the premium stuff. Still, it meant that Minato would soon run out of money to pay his bills. As Minato worries about his future, Yamagami notices a small rock quietly appearing in Minato's garden. Later, Minato heads out to the streets for a dreaded job hunt. He tries applying for a part-time job, but then remembers that it won't be enough to feed the Martin's familiars bottomless pits. Then, he notes a raffle nearby, so he decides to try his luck out. Somehow, Minato wins the grand prize of 100,000 yen, which gives him at least 3 days worth of money. Happy to procrastinate getting a job, he decides to buy some drinks to celebrate with Yamagami. However, when Minato enters the store, he unexpectedly becomes their 333rd customer. For some reason, the store owners celebrate this odd number, so as a reward, they gift Minato with a set of their best drinks. Minato wonders if his back-to-back lucky streaks are just a fluke, but when he basically ends up winning every single jackpot in the world afterward, he becomes convinced that something strange happened to his luck. Afterward, he returns home as a millionaire and asks Yamagami if he used his powers to rig the lottery. Yamagami shakes his head and points to a strange turtle in Minato's pond as the culprit. He explains that this rocky turtle is called Reiki, and it is one of the 4 sacred beasts that supposedly grant good luck. Apparently, Minato had helped Reiki sometime, so the little turtle decided to repay his favor. Although Minato doesn't recall preserving any endangered turtles, Yamagami reveals that he indirectly helped Reiki escape an evil spirit when he destroyed it near the marketplace. Despite this explanation, Minato feels skeptical about the turtle's powers. Suddenly, he gets a phone call from his mom, who informs him that he has won a 1 million yen lottery he had entered in the past. Finally, Minato accepts Reiki as the real deal and thanks it for its help. Yamagami notes that Reiki wants to live in the pond, so Minato wonders if he should allow it to stay or not. Yamagami then reminds him that he's literally the owner, so the decision is up to him, since the small turtle could help him live the rest of his life without working a finger. Minato easily accepts it into his garden. Then, he offers Reiki some of the drinks as thanks for his earlier help. Hearing about a free drink, the slow turtle instant transmissions straight in front of a bowl to get its reward. Minato smiles and tells Reiki to drink as much as he wants, but then, a glowing orb appears in front of him. Once the orb settles to the ground, it loses its glow, revealing the clump of seeds inside. Minato wonders where the seeds came from, so Yamagami explains that they're a gift from Reiki. Then, as Minato gets ready to plant the seeds, Yamagami warns him that they'll grow into a very large plant. To prevent his garden from being destroyed, Minato asks Yamagami for a suitable spot before planting the seeds inside. As he plants the seeds, Minato wonders which plant they'll actually grow into, but Yamagami keeps it a surprise. A few days later, Minato walks out to the garden carrying some cookies for Yamagami and his familiars. Suddenly, 2 little spirits peek out from the roof, scaring the lights out of the poor man. Then, Yamagami greets them with the names Fujin and Reijin. So Minato realizes they're the famed spirits of wind and lightning from Japanese mythology. Although the two spirits were described as quite fearsome in the stories, they look quite cute in real life. After learning the spirits' real identity, Minato offers them some cookies, which they happily take. Then, both of them start making fun of Yamagami for nearly dying, but the old fox proudly tells them he'd never die so easily. Meanwhile, Yamagami's familiars get angry that the spirits stole their cookies. Before getting curious about their visit, the twin gods explain that they were simply curious about Minato's famous garden, so they came over to take a look. Then, they notice Reiki drinking from its bowl, so Minato offers to let them drink as well. Once the two of them are done drinking, Fujin gives Minato his power of wind as a gift. Shocked, Minato wonders how to use the power, so Yamagami tells him to imagine himself using the wind. With these instructions, Minato holds out his hands and concentrates hard. Soon, a gentle breeze starts blowing in the same direction. Although Minato is pleased to use his new vacuum cleaner's power, Yamagami explains that he can train it to become even more powerful. Elsewhere, in a dark facility, Haruma fights against more evil spirits. As he destroys one more, he notices that the pentagram from Minato has slowly faded away. While Haruma feels pity that his overpowered pentagram is about to disappear, two of his teammates scream in panic nearby. He turns around, finding a man called Akijo cornered by a huge evil spirit. Although Akijo's partner, Horikawa, is standing nearby, she feels powerless to do anything against the dangerous spirit. Akijo screams at her to help him, but it's too late as the spirit lunges to attack. Suddenly, Haruma arrives in the nick of time and destroys the spirit with a shopping list. As Haruma checks on Horikawa, Akijo gets annoyed as he notices the shopping list in Haruma's hands. Afterward, he confronts Horikawa and asks her if she knows the source of Haruma's overpowered shopping lists. Horikawa admits that she doesn't know, so Akijo gets angry at her. Confused, she wonders why he's so upset. Then, she asks why he hates Haruma so much, which pisses him off even more. Still, Horikawa struggles free and leaves, so Akijo is left alone with his bruised ego. A few days later, Minato walks out to his garden, noticing that the rain outside has stopped. Yamagami explains that the garden is unaffected because the energy from all the magical creatures living inside has created a barrier around it. Then, Minato notices the seeds he planted, now sprouting into a small sapling. Yamagami tells Minato that this plant will be called Kusunoki after his own name as the sacred tree of the house. Minato nods and waters the sapling before taking out some more treats for Yamagami. While the white fox eats, Minato pulls out some hiking gear from his luggage. Yamagami wonders where he's going, so Minato explains that he wants to go hiking on his mountain. Surprised, Yamagami warns him that his mountain isn't an easy place to hike, but Minato feels confident with his hiking gear. Finally, Yamagami allows him to hike his mountain as long as he doesn't go higher than his shrine. After completing his preparations, Minato goes hiking at Mount Hojo along with Yamagami's three familiars. Along the way, Minato starts struggling with the harsh terrain, but the three spirits cheer him on. After a long, hard hike, Minato finally arrives at a clearing where he spots Yamagami's broken old shrine. The three Martins reassure Minato that he doesn't need to clean up anything. However, Minato still wants to repair it to pay respects to his friend. Seeing his sincerity, the spirits help him transport the materials and fix up the broken shrine. After some time, they finish cleaning the shrine and sit down to eat. Suddenly, everyone hears some unsettling roars coming from the nearby forest. Without an explanation, the spirits get up to investigate, so Minato chases after them. As he catches up with them, he notices that a large black mist has gathered around a nearby waterfall. From the black mist, an evil spirit appears and attacks one of the Martins, who hides in Minato's arms. Then, one of them notes that the evil spirit has absorbed another creature. Before asking Minato if he can see it, Minato explains that he can only see good spirits, but this particular evil spirit is so powerful that even he can faintly see it. Since the ferrets are too scared to approach the evil spirit, Minato decides decides to confront it with one of his notes. As he tries to vaporize the spirit with the note, the spirit dodges his attack and retaliates. Minato realizes that he can't defeat the spirit without risking his own body. But then he gets another idea. He takes out a bunch of his notes from his bag and tosses them up in the air and uses his wind magic to blow them towards the spirit like a machine gun. This time, one of the notes hits the evil spirit, which instantly erases it from existence after the evil spirit disappears. A strange orb falls out of its body and reveals a strange creature inside. As Minato tries to check if the creature is okay, it instantly goes on alert and runs away. Although Minato feels a little disappointed, he feels happy that the creature is feeling okay. A little while later, he returns home, and Yamagami thanks him for cleaning his shrine. Then, Minato asks him about the creature he saw, but Yamagami keeps it a secret from him once again. Minato lets him keep the secret, but then he notices that the Kusunoki tree has stopped growing. The Martins explain that since the tree is a sacred plant, its growth pattern is different from that of normal trees. While they discuss the tree, Reiki alerts Minato to the door, so he heads out to check. Outside, he finds a small blue dragon floating in the air. The dragon bows to greet Minato, so he returns the respect as well. Minato then invites the dragon inside and asks Yamagami about it. Yamagami explains that the dragon is called Oryu, and it's another one of the 4 fortune beasts. Oryu notices the Kusunoki tree, and it heads out and summons a strange power. Soon, black clouds start gathering over the garden despite the magic barrier around it. However, when the clouds start raining, they cause the Kusunoki tree to grow to a massive size in just a few seconds. Once the tree has grown, Oryu stops the rain and asks Minato for permission to live in his pond. Minato agrees to let it stay, but only if Reiki allows it. Since Reiki doesn't mind, Oryu starts living with them. Yamagami explains that Oryu likes Minato very much, since Haruma used his pentagram to free it from an evil spirit. Even though it was technically Haruma's work, Oryu noticed the source of his magic power and came to Minato's house to thank him. Suddenly, Haruma himself arrives at the door, hoping for another batch of ghost-repellent writing. Minato takes out a fresh batch of notes for him, and in return, Haruma gives him a delicious dessert as thanks. Noticing the yummy food, Yamagami's mouth starts watering, but Minato remains focused on Haruma. He asks the exorcist if the pentagram was any good, and Haruma praises him for its exceptional power. Then, he asks him to draw another symbol on his hand, but this time, he wants the shape to be different. Minato wonders if Haruma just doesn't like pentagrams, but he explains that the pentagram is the family crest of another family. Minato nods and draws a new shape on Haruma's hand, which he observes while working. One of Haruma's trusted co-workers points out that Minato's notes aren't very useful since they're hard to throw. Haruma explains that he already fixed this issue by having Minato write solid business cards for him. Hearing this, the co-worker cracks a joke that Haruma is ready to be a superhero with his throwing cards. Then, he gets serious and warns him to keep Minato's identity a secret, since any evil person could exploit him for his spirit-warding powers. He notes that Akijo has already found out about Minato, but hopes that he doesn't do anything to hurt him. Meanwhile, in the market, Minato bumps into Akijo, who glares at him and walks away. Confused, Minato keeps walking, but he fails to notice the small talisman that Akijo sneakily left on his back. A few days later, while Minato writes down another world-ending shopping list, Yamagami notices Akijo's evil talisman floating around. His eyes narrow, recalling Haruma's warning about a colleague who was keeping track of Minato's movements. Yamagami feels angered that such a random small fry wants to hurt his friend, so he erases the talisman to protect Minato. Sometime later, Akijo himself tracks down Minato's house after all the failures from his cursing talismans. When he reaches the house with Horikawa, she asks him what he plans to do after seeing Minato. Akijo tells her that he'll either buy his talismans in bulk or force him to create custom-made artifacts just for himself. Then, Horikawa senses a strange ringing sound from all the magical energy around Minato's house, but she's unable to understand what it is. Akijo steps up and rings the doorbell, but when the door doesn't open, he kicks it out of frustration. Suddenly, a strange power courses through his body and causes him to slip and fall. After Akijo gets up, he finds himself in a nightmarish landscape centered around an ominous shrine. Confused, he calls for his Horikawa, but no one responds. The scared man looks around, and after feeling a chilling dread, he tries to run away from the hellscape. However, one of the trees sprouts its roots in his path, which causes him to stumble and fall face first on a hard rock shock. After experiencing the pain of death, Ikijo miraculously wakes up back at the shrine. He checks his watch and realizes that the time hasn't passed even by a single second, which leaves him even more terrified. Then, Ikijo notices a big line of talismans humming with energy, their power seeming anything but friendly. Meanwhile, Minato peacefully completes his shopping list back at the house. Nearby, Yamagami flips through a local magazine in which he finds that his favorite bean bun maker has started using chunky bean paste instead of smooth. This change in texture is too outrageous for Yamagami to handle, and Minato notices how angry he is. He realizes that the bean maker is called Ichigo, who's a baker he regularly visits. To ease Yamagami's anger, Minato decides to pay Ichigo a visit to convince him into making more smooth buns. On his way there, Yamagami joins Minato for the trip, so he feels worried that the people around them will notice. Yamagami reassures Minato that most people cannot see him, but still, the people around them notice his pleasant smell and presence. Before getting Yamagami's buns, they head to a pet shop for some stuff. Yamagami picks out a nice dog bowl for himself, but Minato feels bad about feeding his best friend like a stray puppy. Instead, he buys a more suitable vessel for Yamagami, before picking out a soft sleeping cushion. Yamagami insists that he doesn't need any bedding, but when he actually feels the cushion's softness, he instantly falls in love with it. Minato notes that the dog cushion is too small for him, so he makes a custom order for a larger one. Afterward, both of them visit Ichigo's shop. Ichigo recognizes Minato as a neighbor and wonders if he has visited Yamagami's mountain. Minato nods, so Ichigo secretly asks him if he has met the holy dog of the mountain. Behind Minato, the offended Yamagami points out that he's a wolf. Minato takes the chance to avoid lying and tells Ichigo that he hasn't met any magic dogs lately. He asks the baker what he's talking about, so Ichigo explains that he has met the holy dog of the mountain. Back in his childhood, he had gotten lost in the vast mountain while playing outside. As the young Ichigo tried to find his way, he stumbled upon a strange shrine. Suddenly, a strange dog appeared in front of him and scared him away. Everywhere the little boy ran, the dog would pop up out of nowhere to scare him in another direction. It was only after Ichigo found himself at the base of the mountain that he realized the dog had helped him find his way back. In the present, Ichigo thinks that he saw a guiding demon dog, which angers Yamagami even more. Still, the baker explains that he has held respect for Yamagami ever since then and praises him as a holy dog. Minato feels surprised by the story and acts like he'd like to meet the dog himself. Afterward, he leaves the store with Yamagami, wondering how Ichigo got back to full health. Yamagami explains that although he can't delay a person's death, he can at least help them maintain their health with his energy. Since Ichigo makes his favorite buns, he needs the old man to stay in business for as long as he can. As the two of them watch, Ichigo's grandson returns home, both of them looking like a perfect family. Afterward, Minato returns home and ties a wind chime to the garden ceiling. Then, he leaves to take a bath, while Yamagami reluctantly tries out the new chunky buns. Before he starts to eat, Yamagami remembers that a certain unpleasant visitor was just outside their house. After Ichigo had experienced the same nightmarish hellscape again and again, he wondered if he was trapped inside to rot forever. Finally, the endless terror overwhelmed him, and the man begged whoever was controlling the realm to forgive him for angering them. With his apology, Yamagami finally released him from the nightmare, and Ichigo returned to his senses in the real world. When he woke up, he asked Horikawa how long she had been waiting for him. Horikawa felt confused, since she didn't feel any time pass during the time Ichigo was trapped in the nightmare. After hearing this, Ichigo gets terrified of Minato's house and runs away like a scared child. Left behind, the confused Horikawa wonders if the house's bell had anything to do with Ichigo's terror. Meanwhile, Yamagami continues to peacefully enjoy his chunky buns. Soon, Minato comes out of the bath, wondering if they had any visitors. Yamagami tells him no, so Minato changes the topic and wonders if he likes the new buns. Despite his earlier complaints, Yamagami actually likes the new buns after tasting them. Minato feels glad that their trip to Ichigo's bakery wasn't a waste, and sits down to relax. Yamagami notices that he took quite a long bath this time, even though he usually takes quick showers. Minato explains that he's used to taking relaxing baths in a hot spring back at home, so he wanted to experience that feeling once more. Hearing this, Yamagami grows thoughtful and decides to take action. The very next day, as Minato walks out to his garden, he notices the smell of burning sulfur. Surprised, he sees that Yamagami has created a full hot spring bath bath right in his garden for him to enjoy. Minato gratefully accepts his gift and enters the bath to relax. He then notices that the turtle and dragon aren't present. Yamagami explains that the two small beasts must be resting at the bottom of the garden's pond. He also reveals that he created the hot spring with their help last night. Minato nods, making a mental note to thank them both. Sometime later, he gets out of the hot bath to relax on the cold floor. While Minato is out of commission, Yamagami peacefully enjoys a dog bowl full of tea. Then, one of his familiars suddenly alerts everyone that they've got a new visitor. Oryu then approaches Minato, explaining that the visitor is someone he and Reiki know. After Minato steps outside, he finds nothing at the door. Then, he notices a shy creature peeking out from under the grass. Once the creature is found out, it ducks back down out of shyness. One of the ferrets explains that it's asking for permission to enter the house, so Minato agrees to let it inside. After their new friend enters, it introduces itself as Kirin, then begins to tremble nervously while muttering a few words. Minato wonders what it's saying, so one of the ferrets acts as a translator for him. It explains that the Kirin is incredibly grateful to him for saving it from the evil spirit. Minato doesn't think much of his own actions, but the Kirin suddenly grows bolder and starts thanking him with more words than the English dictionary. After an hour of yapping, the Kirin offers to make Minato the king of half the world as thanks for his help. Of course, Minato doesn't want so much power, so the Kirin wonders why a human could resist its offer. In the Kirin's mind, humans are greedy creatures who invade other nations just for plundering their resources, so it thinks that Minato would like its gift. While Minato struggles to explain, Fujin and Reijin tell Kirin that he doesn't have any such greed in his heart. Afterward, the Kirin finally leaves Minato alone, who thanks the two spirits for helping him out. Minato then notices that they look bigger than before. They explain that they're simply returning back to their original size since Minato's garden is a beneficial environment for them. To thank him for his help, they pull out a giant rare fish and slice it up for a feast. The ferrets wonder if Minato can do something so amazing as well, but he isn't strong enough yet. Reijin then makes him try out his wind power on Yamagami to see if he has gotten stronger. After Minato blows the gentle breeze across Yamagami's soft fur, the poor wolf wakes up from his nap with a sneeze. Thankfully, Yamagami doesn't mind his experiments. Reijin notices that Minato wasn't going as hard as he could and realizes that he was afraid of hurting Yamagami. The wind spirit explains that if Minato tries out the full limits of his powers on a safe target first, he can learn to better control them around other people. As Minato thinks about his words, he gets a message from his mom informing him that their house's nameplate got broken again. Yamagami thinks that a supernatural spirit might be behind the strange nameplate incidents, so Minato recalls the young spirit called Warashi who lives in his house. Yamagami explains that the spirit warding power in Minato's nameplates must have expired, so the peaceful spirit in his house breaks them as a reminder to replace them. Hearing this, Minato recalls how many times the nameplates got broken back in his childhood, so he agrees with Yamagami's explanation. Before making a new nameplate for his mom, Minato wonders if he can improve them somehow. Yamagami thinks that he can upgrade his spirit warding powers, so the next time he can send stronger nameplates that will last a lot longer. Minato wonders how to increase his power, so Yamagami gets up to start training. He opens up a strange portal, which leads the surprised Minato to a forest full of trees. Yamagami tells him to use the full power of his wind magic, but Minato feels bad about damaging the beautiful trees. Yamagami explains that the trees are all fake, so he should feel free to destroy them all. With his reassurance, Minato finally prepares to use his full strength. Meanwhile, outside the house, the Kirin returns with a durian as a gift for Minato. It leaves the foul-smelling fruit on the ground, so both Reiki and Oryu start screaming at it for leaving smelly trash behind. The Kirin gets offended that they rejected for its precious gift, but it reluctantly leaves the mansion. Back in the forest, Yamagami watches as Minato holds out his hands and concentrates. This time, he releases a powerful wind that shakes even the strong trees, but suddenly, his body gives out and he collapses from all the strain. Afterward, he wakes up back in the house, and Yamagami explains that his body couldn't handle his own full power. From then on, Minato starts training with Yamagami to strengthen his wind magic and stamina. Once his power grows stronger, he makes a new nameplate for his mom with extra spirit warding strength. While Minato prepares to send the gift home, Haruma faces a new threat elsewhere. In a dense, shrouded forest, he steps back in horror horror from a shrine surrounded by a dark, heavy miasma. A few days later, Minato vacuums the leaves outside of his house using his wind magic. Yamagami notes that his control of wind magic has significantly improved, but Minato doesn't think he's anything special compared to Fujin. However, Fujin himself admits that he's doing great. He thinks that soon, Minato will become strong enough to destroy his enemies' houses using tornadoes. But Minato reassures him that he won't abuse his powers. Then, Raijin wonders if Minato would like the power of lightning as well, but he refuses it. After declining the offer, Minato notices that Yamagami's minions are absent. The old wolf explains that since his 3 minions were useless back when Minato encountered the evil spirit at the mountain, he has sent them away for training. Meanwhile, below a large tree, the 3 ferrets snore away, exhausted after simple training drills. Sometime later, Minato roasts some sweet potatoes for everyone to eat. While Yamagami enjoys the potatoes along with Oryu, Minato serves a drink to Reiki as well. He then asks Fujin and Raijin if they'd like some sweet potatoes as well. The 2 spirits refuse, proudly claiming that they can cook their own potatoes in the blink of an eye. To demonstrate, Fujin blows some raw sweet potatoes into the air, while Raijin torches them with his lightning for cooking. Although the 2 seem proud of their creation, Minato notes that they completely burnt the delicious potatoes. Suddenly, a strange red fruit rolls into Minato's foot. He observes the fruit and realizes that the Kirin has appeared once again with a strange gift. Minato thanks the Kirin and asks him to have some sweet potatoes, but the poor creature wonders if he's going to burn it just like the ones in his hand. After the scared Kirin runs away, Minato wonders what it likes and learns from Yamagami that it prefers beer. Then, someone rings the doorbell, so Minato goes out and sees an exhausted Haruma. Unable to speak, the tired man collapses into Minato's arms. After some rest and water, Haruma finally gains the strength to talk. He notes that the pressure inside Minato's house has increased. Although the pressure comes from all the strange, magical creatures living inside, Minato acts like he doesn't know anything about it. Then, Haruma explains that he has encountered an evil spirit that all the Japanese exorcists can't defeat, even when fighting together. He reveals that the spirit comes from a cursed doll, which was brought to a temple for purification. However, the priest responsible for purifying it passed away, after which the temple became a haunted zone. Haruma notes that this evil spirit might be a powerful entity like Yamagami, because he couldn't even step inside the temple with his partners. Minato wonders why Haruma wants him to defeat the evil spirit, so Haruma explains that the haunted temple exists in a special space outside of their world. Haruma can guess that Minato can see mystical beings like Yamagami, so he's confident that he can enter the haunted temple with their power. Hearing that Haruma wants to use his powers, Yamagami gets infuriated and exerts huge pressure on Haruma. Thankfully, before Haruma can get too traumatized, the 3 ferrets ask Yamagami to calm down. Then, Minato asks Yamagami if he's willing to help Haruma. The angry wolf agrees to help, but only on one strict condition. The condition is that Haruma gets him a bunch of premium treats like rice cakes and bean paste. After Yamagami gets his bribed food, Minato asks if he'll finally come with him to exorcise the spirit. However, he learns that Yamagami will only provide remote support. In his place, his 3 minions will accompany Minato to show off their training and open a portal to the other world. The next day, Minato prepares to leave along with the 3 ferrets. After saying goodbye, all of them leave for the haunted temple. Right before Minato leaves, though, Yamagami spots a leaf from the Kusunoki tree drifting into his shirt. Afterward, Minato and the ferrets go on a long ride to the region where the temple is located. Once they step into the city, Minato follows Haruma's directions to the temple. However, while he's on the way, the ferrets get distracted by a dessert shop, so everyone stops to have some fresh apple pie. While the 3 of them have lunch, Minato notices a nearby crow cawing at them. One of the ferrets explains that this crow is showing them the way, so Minato gets up to follow it. After a while of walking, they enter a region where the black mist is creating a heavy pressure. Once they reach the temple, Minato is the first to climb up its staircase. Right in front of the temple's gate, Minato notes that all the crows are avoiding the heavy miasma inside. He then calls Haruma to let him know that he has arrived. Haruma, who is waiting at the temple's backside with his partners, confirms that he's also present at the location. As one of his friends tries to get in, he informs Minato that they can't take a single step closer. Haruma asks Minato to go on ahead, but he also reminds him to run for his life if anything goes wrong. Minato agrees and Fujian steps towards the gate, but it repels his hand with a strong force. To help him enter, the three ferrets combine their powers and force the gate to open into a magic portal. With the door open, all of them head inside. Soon, they reach the temple's main building, where the ferrets note a ton of dolls stored inside. Before they can step any closer, the ominous hissing of an evil spirit rings out. All of the ferrets gnash their teeth at the enemy, but it breaks through the temple's walls and attacks them with dark tentacles. Shocked by the sudden attack, Minato guards the ferrets by using a shopping list to block the tentacles. After he defeats it, a bunch of dolls drop dead to the floor. Then, more dolls rush out of the house, so the ferrets jump in to fend them off. After they defeat these three dolls, Utsugi gets too cocky and fails to notice one of them still twitching. The doll catches him off guard and traps him inside its hair, but luckily, Sari cuts it off. After Utsugi's close call, everyone heaves a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, they don't get to relax since the final boss doll finally appears from the temple. With a large amount of darkness concentrated on its body, the doll rises in the air and screams out loud. The doll's enraged scream causes the darkness to lash out at Minato and the others, so they get ready for a big fight. Minato takes out a bunch of memos and tosses them into the air and blows them towards the evil doll. However, this doll is too powerful and it pierces the powerful talismans as if they were normal shopping lists. Then, the doll knocks away the ferrets and focuses its attack on Minato. It traps him in a thick wall of hair and begins to choke him with full force, so Minato thinks that he's about to go to heaven. At this moment, Yamagami notices Minato's current state from his connection with the ferrets. Suddenly, his eyes glow with power, and the three ferrets call out to Minato. All three of them start glowing with the same light as Yamagami. Then, the white wolf roars loudly, and the ferrets soon follow suit. With their powers combined, they defeat the evil doll, which releases Minato and falls to the ground. While the ferrets check on Minato, he checks on the doll and finds it twitching in pain. Minato writes a word on the doll, which finally causes the impurities to leave its body. However, the ferrets notice that the true demon haunting the temple has not been exorcised yet. To investigate, they enter the main building, where they find a mysterious orb devoured by the dark impurity. The ferrets explain that this orb contains a powerful creature, so they'll be free to leave once Minato purifies it. Minato reaches into his pockets to write a note for the orb, but he realizes that he's already out of notes. However, he finds a spare notebook and uses it to write a bunch of purifying words for the orb. Unfortunately, the orb is too powerful, so the words fail to purify it. The ferrets wonder if Minato's got anything else to write on, but before he can check, the world around them starts to crumble. In a panic, everyone realizes that the magical space is about to collapse since they damaged the evil spirits haunting it. Scared, one of the ferrets hides inside Minato's shirt, where it finds the small Kusunoki leaf. Quickly, it gives the leaf to Minato, who thinks they can defeat the final spirit with the power of the sacred Kusunoki tree. With the last of his strength, Minato writes down his own surname, Kusunoki, onto the leaf's body. He uses this strongest word to purify the evil spirit, and this time, it finally disappears from the strange orb. Once the impurity is gone, Minato takes the purified orb and runs out with the ferrets. Outside the temple, Haruma notices that the whole place is collapsing. He tries to go in to help Minato, but Horikawa stops him since it'd be no use. Inside, Minato and the others run to the temple's main exit, but the space around them collapses at an incredible speed. As they desperately try to reach the exit space, a large tree gets uprooted from the tremors. The tree starts falling straight towards Minato, who closes his eyes for the end. Suddenly, Fujin and Reijin appear and cut through the tree. They then cause a powerful wind to blow from the strange house, which chops it apart and pushes Minato and the rest to the exit. Afterward, they all wake up in the real world again. The ferrets wonder who saved them since they didn't see anyone, so Fujin and Reijin both show up. As the two spirits tease Minato for needing their help, he apologizes for creating trouble for them. Sometime later, Haruma sincerely thanks Minato for his huge help. Minato invites him inside the house to have a barbecue with the whole gang, but Haruma refuses since he's busy. Before leaving, he gives another bag of premium treats to Minato, who brings it to all the barbecue eaters inside. While everyone else enjoys a delicious lunch, Minato serves some drinks to Fujin and Reijin, who are relaxing in his bath. Behind him, the Kirin also pops its head out, so Minato gives it a drink as well. The happy Kirin gives him another durian as thanks, but Reiki appears out of nowhere to toss its smelly fruit. The two of them go back and forth arguing wondering about the fruit's taste, so Oryu jumps in and takes Reiki's side. While the three spirits continue arguing, the ferrets call Minato to observe his strange orb. As Minato takes a look, the orb glows and transforms into a tiny chicken. Yamagami explains that this chicken is called Hado, and it's the final member of Reiki and the other lucky spirits. Minato welcomes little Hado to his residence, and the chicken stretches its wings as if it's already home. A few days later, Yamagami enjoys some fruit buns while chilling at Minato's place. As the two of them relax, they observe the Ho-Oh bird teaching other birds how to sing. Although the birds look like cute kids playing around, Ho-Oh gives serious pointers to its students to improve their singing technique. While most of the birds sing a beautiful song, one of them feels shy and completely messes up its performance. This angers Ho-Oh, but he graciously sings another song to help the bird learn. Watching the scene, Yamagami and Minato smile, happy to see their friend so popular. Nearby, Oryu, Reiki, and the Kirin also relax in the peaceful garden, but everyone fails to notice a strange portal opening in the sky. Meanwhile, in another place, Haruma battles evil spirits in an infected area. After defeating one, he asks his partner, Katsuragi, if they've cleared the area. Katsuragi points out that they're nowhere near done, since the number of evil spirits has increased due to a special festival. Haruma feels exhausted from using all his mana, so Katsuragi covers for him with his shark and penguin spirits, who devour a few more evil spirits. Although Katsuragi relaxes after defeating the spirits, Haruma gets a notification for another evil spirit attack and rushes to investigate it. Back in town, Minato comes out of a shop after buying sweets for everyone. Watching him appear, the people in the street start talking about him as if he's some kind of bird whisperer. Minato feels confused, but then a bunch of different birds start flocking the area to meet their superstar, Ho-Oh. Minato ignores their whispering and keeps walking until he encounters his gardener, who has just finished creating his 25th statue. Minato admires the man's work, who tells him that he's got more energy to work ever since he started visiting his house. Then, he gets surprised by all the birds everywhere, so Minato runs away before he can get suspicious. Back at the house, Yamagami's familiars inform him about all the strange portals appearing everywhere. He tells them not to panic, knowing that his minions can't handle them alone. Yamagami then steps up and jumps into the sky to help them deal with all the rogue domains. Nearby, as Minato gets closer to home, he notices that all the birds have left. Suddenly, Fujin and Reijin pop up and tell him to go home as soon as possible. Minato wonders why, so they explain that evil spirits have been going rampant lately. They also reveal that many abandoned divine realms have randomly started popping up, which are a serious danger to humans. As they speak, one domain appears in the sky above them, so Reijin zaps it out of existence. Fujin explains that divine realms can appear anywhere from the sky, the ground, or in water. They also warn Minato to be extra careful around the domains. Minato wonders why, so they point out that he is already very close to mythical creatures like him, so the dangerous domains are more attracted to him. Because Minato lives in a divine domain himself and has enjoyed Yamagami's hot spring, he will be unable to free himself if he gets sucked into a rogue domain. Before Minato leaves, the spirits also inform him that Yamagami is personally taking action to destroy the abandoned divine realms. Outside, as Yamagami tracks down the divine domains, he realizes there are way too many to handle alone. To deal with them all, he splits up with his familiars to cover more ground. Back in the town, Minato encounters an abandoned shrine. An unknown voice tells him to stop, but Minato thinks it was Ho-Oh, since Ho-Oh tells him he didn't say anything. Minato ignores the warning and walks closer to the shrine. Suddenly, a portal opens right in front of him and starts sucking him inside. Minato is unable to resist the pull, but Ho-Oh jumps in to protect him. Suddenly, it transforms from a red chicken into a majestic phoenix and screeches towards the portal. Unfortunately, Ho-Oh is too weak to sustain its transformation, so it turns back into a chicken and gets sucked into the portal along with Minato. At the same time, Yamagami notices that Minato's presence has disappeared. A few minutes later, Minato wakes up in a new realm, but he realizes that the foreign realm's energy is making him sick. He begins searching for the exit, but encounters a bunch of wooden crates along the way. Minato remembers some advice from Yamagami that a divine domain reflects its creator's psyche, so if the domain starts displaying their special signs, it means that its creator is feeling comfortable. While continuing on the path, he encounters a small crevice. Minato enters the crevice, and the atmosphere changes from peaceful peaceful to creepy. In the depths of the dark cave, Minato finds a woman sleeping in pain, and he realizes that it must be the creator of the domain. Suddenly, the woman gets up and starts complaining about the stuffy air inside. Despite knowing that she needs to air out her own home, she feels too lazy to get up and actually clean it. Minato asks the lady if she's the creator, and she nods. She wonders why Minato is visiting her with such a powerful creature. The woman tells him that she didn't summon him, so Minato explains that he randomly got sucked into her domain. The woman also tells him that she didn't open the entrance to her domain, so Minato informs her that plenty of abandoned divine domains have been opening up in his world. However, the woman is clearly living in her home, so she wonders how he found it. She then wonders if the power in her seal has weakened, so Minato explains that her shrine was completely decrepit. Seeing this, the lady sighs in sadness. Then, she senses Minato's powers and wonders if he can use Fujin's wind powers. Minato is surprised that she can tell, while the goddess is amazed that someone as reserved as Fujin actually gave his power to a human. She smiles and asks Minato if he can use his wind powers to ventilate her cave. Minato feels confused, so she suggests blowing some wind inside to air it out. He agrees to help, but wonders when she ventilated it the last time. After thinking about it, the goddess tells him that she last aired out her cave over 1,000 years ago. Minato is shocked by this divine basement dweller, but he refrains from making any comment. Then, the lady lies back down after telling him to handle everything. Minato asks her if she'll let him leave once he cleans up her place, so the lady agrees. However, she feels offended that he asked her and wonders if he considers her to be some kind of non-serious person. Minato points out the awful state of her cave, so the lady points a finger and opens up a portal nearby. She tells him to toss any old wooden crates out the portal, so Minato agrees and lifts up the crates. He then starts blowing them all into the portal. Watching him work, the lady feels impressed by Minato's skills. Outside the domain, Yamagami's 3 ferrets keep on taking down more divine domains. After they clear a few more, Yamagami appears and asks them for an update. The ferrets explain that they've eliminated all of the divine domains in the area, so Yamagami tells them it's time to save Minato. They wonder what happened to him and learn that Minato got trapped in a random domain. As they recall Ho-Oh's earlier cry, the ferrets figure that Minato must have been kidnapped. All of a sudden, more divine domains appear in the sky again. Fujin and Reijin appear as reinforcements, so Yamagami orders his familiars to go help Minato. After they leave, Yamagami roars with a burst of power, which destroys the new domains. Impressed by his power, the 2 spirits praise Yamagami. They wonder if he can make his mountain erupt at the peak of his strength, but he reminds them that the last eruption was over 1,500 years ago. Back in the divine domain, Minato finishes cleaning up the lazy goddess's cave. Once he's done, he asks her to check if the room looks okay. As the goddess opens her eyes, she feels surprised to see it all clean. However, she still thinks that the air feels a bit stuffy. To solve this, Minato pulls out some leaves from his pocket. The goddess wonders what they are, so he explains that they're from his garden's sacred tree. Then, Minato sends the leaves flying into the air, and they immediately clear all of the dark miasma from it. Seeing this, the goddess feels impressed by his abilities once again. Minato explains that the Kusunoki leaves carry great power, so he takes them everywhere he goes. Finally, the goddess gets up and thanks Minato once again for a job well done. She asks him if he can give her some more Kusunoki leaves, so Minato gives one to her. The goddess takes the leaf, appreciates its fragrance, and offers to grant Minato her own power as a token of thanks. She points to his head, which transfers a strange power inside Minato's body. He wonders what she did, so the goddess explains that she gave him a sealing power. Minato asks what he can seal now, so she explains that he can seal all kinds of invisible things. She reveals that he can even seal emotions, regrets, and other supernatural powers into anything he wants. Finally, Minato realizes why she had so many crates in her domain. The goddess nods, explaining that all the crates she had contained people's unresolved dreams, regrets, powers, and other burdens. She then tells him that he doesn't need to seal things into crates. She tells Minato that he can use anything he wants, before saying that it's completely optional for him to use her powers. She warns him that unless he trains to use her power at will, it will only activate under the right conditions. After explaining this, she lies back down to sleep. Minato panics and reminds her that she hasn't shown him the exit to her domain yet. However, the goddess is already out like a light. Minato thinks about waking her, but he'd rather die die out of courtesy instead of disturbing her sleep. Luckily, the ferrets open a portal inside the domain, so Minato leaves with them. Once outside, he thanks them for saving his life. The ferrets apologize for being so late, explaining that they were dealing with all the other divine domains popping around in the city. Minato tells them that he received a sealing power from the person inside the domain. At the mention of sealing, the ferrets realize that domain's owner is Amaterasu. Minato is shocked, since Amaterasu is a very famous deity, but she looks completely different in person. Minato then wonders how the ferrets found his location. They explain that they tracked down Ho-Oh's cry, so Minato makes a mental note to thank his feathery friend. However, the ferrets tell him that he should also thank the wind spirits. Minato wonders why, so they explain that the wind spirits help them find Amaterasu's domain. They also ask if Minato heard any voices before getting sucked in, so he realizes it was the wind spirits warning him about the danger. Then, the ferrets ask him to concentrate to try to hear the wind spirits around them. Minato closes his eyes and focuses hard, and soon, he hears joyous little voices speak to him. Now that he can hear the wind spirits, he thanks them all for saving his life. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Haruma waits outside an abandoned establishment. Katsuragi catches up to him just in time to see some other exorcists walk by. The other exorcists explain that they've already purified all the evil spirits in the location. However, the exorcists ask him why he's in their region, since there's an unspoken rule among official exorcists to remain inside their own jurisdiction. After making this threat, the other exorcists leave, so Katsuragi tells Haruma that they're a lazy group of exorcists which charge extraordinary fees just to deal with normal cases. He hopes that they stay out of trouble, while Haruma stays silent. Back in Minato's house, he brings over some treats for all his companions. However, he finds Yamagami missing. After looking around, Minato realizes that Yamagami has shrunk back to his chibai size. Yamagami explains that he used too much power defeating the domains, so Minato tells him to quickly eat up and restore his strength. Watching the little wolf eat, Minato thinks he looks quite cute, but Yamagami playfully warns him not to play with him. A few days later, Minato is chilling in the house, wondering when Ho-Oh will wake up. Ever since the little bird used its full powers to resist the abandoned domain's pull, it had fallen into a deep sleep from losing all its powers. Yamagami reassures Minato that it'll soon wake up, saying that a phoenix like Ho-Oh is far tougher than he can imagine. Minato feels relieved, and then he picks up a box to practice his sealing magic. Yamagami wonders what he's doing, so Minato explains that he's trying to master Amaterasu's powers. He reveals that he wants to seal his exorcist powers into new things to help Haruma fight stronger ghosts. Yamagami is interested in Minato's experiments, but he notes that all of his powers are leaking from the box. Then, he tells Minato he needs to have an image of the thing he is trying to seal, but Minato ends up laughing at him instead. A few more days pass, and Minato complains to Yamagami that his house get rejected by yet another interested customer. He counts all the strong points of the beautiful house, wondering why a well-built home in the peaceful countryside with a garden would get rejected at the very last moment by every single buyer. Although Yamagami knows the reason, he remains silent in front of Minato. Then, he notes that it's spring season, so he uses his magic power to plant beautiful sakura trees all over Minato's garden. Seeing the pretty pink trees, Minato wonders how Yamagami can insta-plant them. Yamagami explains that he uses his eyes to cast transformation magic, but Minato is distracted by the fact that it also transformed Yamagami back to his tiny size. He then thinks about Yamagami's words, realizing that a person should cast their magic the way it's easier for them, just like how Yamagami finds it easier to use his eyes. This gives Minato the idea to seal his exorcism powers in his notes as he has always done. While he works away on his memo pad, the birds outside sing a lovely song. Hearing this, Yamagami calls out to their Ho-Oh, who immediately wakes up from its slumber and flies out to teach his dumb student. Afterward, Minato goes out with Yamagami's 3 minions to hunt some bamboo shoots. He wonders why they need the strange plants, so the ferrets explain that the refreshing bamboo water might clear his mind for magic practice. Although Minato feels unsettled by the dark forest, he decides to trust the ferrets and keeps walking with them. As all of them walk away, they fail to notice someone someone stalking them from behind. Meanwhile, back at Minato's house, Fujin, Reijin, and Yamagami are all having a party together. Fujin explains that they're the reason behind all the interested buyers leaving Minato's house. As soon as any of them would show interest in the house, Fujin would scare them by putting them in his domain. Yamagami thinks he's being very mean to the poor customers, but Reijin reminds him that he literally used his malevolent shrine domain against Akijo just a little while back. Still, Fujin thinks that Akijo deserved the rough treatment for being so rude to Minato and his friends. Then, he notices another abandoned domain in the sky, moving towards Minato's location. The two spirits wonder why all these domains get attracted to Minato, thinking it's not normal for a human to get their attention. Fujin thinks about giving Minato some more powers to deal with the pesky domains, but Yamagami stops him. He reminds the lightning spirit that if they give Minato too many magic powers, he'll stop being a human at his core. Back in the forest, Minato pants from exhaustion as he finally reaches the bamboo spot. The ferrets point him towards the chutes to start digging, but then Minato realizes that he forgot to pack his hoe for the trip. In the end, the poor man has to manually poke out the hard chutes with a garden trowel. All of a sudden, a massive bear lurks towards Minato and lets out a terrifying roar. Minato backs down in fear, but the bear keeps walking towards him. At this moment, he wonders if playing dead would even work. Thankfully, Yamagami takes control of Utsugi's body through his magic power and reassures Minato that the bear is friendly. Then, as the bear roars again, the other two ferrets explain that it's thanking Minato for taking care of his chief. Minato wonders who the bear is talking about and learns that it's thanking him for helping Kirin. Then, the bear also offers to repay Minato for his favor. He walks towards the bamboo plants before swiping at the ground, extracting the growing bamboo shoots from inside. Watching the bear work so efficiently, Minato feels grateful that it's not using those large paws against him. After a short while, the bear gives him a giant pile of bamboo shoots. Still scared, Minato thanks the bear for his help, who tells him to eat the shoots while they're still fresh. Minato wonders if it's okay to eat in the dark forest, but Yamagami also thinks it's a good idea to eat the shoots fresh. Then, they all get to work and peel off the outer layers of the shoots. Once the inner parts are revealed, Minato plates them with some wasabi and offers it to Yamagami. Then, he wonders how the shoots were supposed to help him with his magic. Yamagami casually points out that the shoots don't increase magic power, so Minato finally realizes that he just wanted a tasty snack. Yamagami explains that he just used the bamboo shoots as an excuse to make Minato relax. Minato admits that he does feel better from the forest's fresh air, before Yamagami reminds him to try some of the bamboo shoots for himself. Minato nods and eats some of the shoots, enjoying their refreshing taste. The next day, he goes home with Yamagami and pulls out a game of shogi to teach him. Minato explains that in shogi, each player can move their pieces unless they make a sound. If their piece makes a sound, then the other player gets to have their turn. Yamagami thinks that the game would be easy for a master of magic like him. However, he ends up getting completely destroyed by Minato. After they keep playing, Yamagami gets frustrated by all his losses. He decides to cheat and uses his wind powers to push Minato's pieces, but Minato calls him out. All of a sudden, a golden light starts glowing in Minato's pond. He wonders if there's something wrong, but Yamagami reassures him that it's just a lost spirit wandering through their house. From the golden light, a strange merman called Ebisu appears. Ebisu tells Minato that he's just a guest passing through and joins him in the house. Minato wonders why he's visiting, so Ebisu explains that he has heard the rumors about a strange human using magic powers. Then, the fat fisherman turns to admire Minato's beautiful garden. As he looks around, he spots the Kirin, who gets angry at him. Ebisu gets a strange feeling in his heart, and he wonders if he has fallen in love with the beautiful animal. Thankfully, Minato stops him before he can do anything strange. Then, Ebisu notices the hot spring in Minato's backyard and asks Yamagami if he can try it. Yamagami allows him to use the bath, so Ebisu thanks him with a bunch of delicious taiyaki snacks. Looking at the tasty treats, Minato wonders if he brought some smooth, filling taiyaki, so Ebisu reassures him that his favorite versions are in there. A few minutes after, Ebisu takes a nice, relaxing soak in the hot bath. Sitting in there, he observes Minato and thinks that he has strayed off the path. Minato wonders what he's talking about, but Ebisu refrains from explaining further. A few days after Ebisu's visit, Minato is working on his magic sealing powers. He gets up to take a break, but encounters a strange black fox in the garden. Minato wonders if it's it's another visitor, but the fox looks around and instantly falls in love with the amazing hot spring. It moves closer to Minato and asks if he's the owner of the house, but he explains that he's simply looking after it as a custodian. The fox nods, but its eyes keep drifting away to the hot spring. Minato realizes that it wants to use the bath, but it feels too shy to ask him as a visitor. He offers to let it use the bath, but the fox explains that it's currently busy trying to run an errand. Despite its protests, Minato realizes that the poor fox totally wants to have a bath. Then, he baits it even more by offering some tasty lunch. At the mention of lunch, the fox finally cracks and asks if it can join him. Minato nods, so the fox thanks him and introduces itself as Tsumugi, the minion of a neighboring mountain deity. Then, it asks Minato if the lunch he's serving is homemade. Minato explains that his food is homemade, but he doesn't feel confident that the fox would love it. However, the little black fox is excited beyond belief to try some fresh, homemade lunch. As Tsumugi makes noises in its excitement, the sounds wake up Yamagami, who was just sleeping nearby. Tsumugi notices him and immediately goes over to greet him, shocking Minato with the respectful treatment. Yamagami reminds him that he has quite a high status, and even Tsumugi admits that he's a high-ranked deity. Then, it finally gets to trying out Minato's delicious lunch. After taking a bite of a snack, the black fox falls in love with the food and starts singing its praises. It eats up all the food in an instant, before thanking Minato for the meal. Then, Tsumugi takes off its scarf, saying that it'll repay Minato for his kind treatment. It gives him a golden peach, explaining that it's a special fruit from its master's sacred garden. However, Tsumugi warns Minato that he can't eat the peach since his body cannot tolerate its energy. Still, it thinks that he can use it as a pretty decoration since the peach cannot rot. As Minato accepts the peach, Tsumugi tells him that its master wanted to show off the superiority of their garden with this gift. Yamagami offers to eat the peach in Minato's place, while Minato wonders if he knows about Tsumugi's master. Even if Yamagami knows, he refuses to say it in front of Minato. Then, Minato asks Tsumugi if it wants to soak in his hot spring. Tsumugi nods, but it wonders if Minato has been taking baths inside the spring as well. Minato admits that he uses the bath as well, so Tsumugi finally understands why he doesn't feel like a human. This surprises Minato, so after Tsumugi leaves, he tells Yamagami that he doesn't feel like a human anymore. Although Minato has always known he was special, he now realizes that he has stepped into Yamagami's magical world after living with him and the others. Even though Minato wants to use his powers to help the people he loves, he feels scared that he'll eventually turn into someone who isn't human. Thankfully, Yamagami reassures Minato that he will remain a human and die as the same person he has always been. This takes the pressure off of Minato, and he feels ready to practice using his powers again. Yamagami then suggests thinking back to his past. He thinks that Minato can find the secret to using his sealing powers in his past memories. As Minato thinks back, he remembers the first time he started seeing supernatural things. It was back when he was 5 years old that he first saw the cute girl spirit living in his granddad's house. After seeing the little spirit, young Minato excitedly rushed to tell his grandpa. As Minato showed him his gift, his grandpa thought that Warashi was thanking him for his kindness. Minato was surprised that his grandpa knew her and learnt that Warashi was a yakai who had been living in their house for centuries. Since then, he started playing with Warashi as if she were a normal neighborhood kid. To Minato's surprise, he learnt that his grandpa could also see Warashi. In addition, the old man could even see yakai spirits that Minato's powerful eyes couldn't. As the days went on, Minato encountered another yakai in the house called Hihai. This big guy wasn't as friendly as Warashi at first, bullying Minato by stealing his hat. The poor boy would ask the big monkey to give back his hat, but it only took pleasure in his suffering. Then, Minato complained to his grandpa, who told him to find a way to befriend Hihai. The very next day, Minato bought a sweet treat that he knew Hihai loved. Although Hihai stole his hat once again, when he offered the treat, it hesitated. The greedy spirit tried to take the treat without any payment, but Minato refused to hand it over without his hat. Finally, Hihai accepted the trade, after which both of them became friends as well. A few years after that, Minato's grandfather passed away. At that time, he was going to primary school with a good friend called Ranmaru. On one sunny summer day, Minato and Ranmaru were going home when Ranmaru complained about the intense heat. Minato encouraged him to keep going, saying that he could have some tasty shaved ice to beat the heat. Ranmaru accepted his suggestion, but after both boys had shaved ice, he still felt like it wasn't cold enough. Suddenly, the sky turned black out of nowhere, and Minato immediately noticed it. Minato spotted a giant, unfriendly-looking yokai nearby. At the sight of the huge monster, Minato recalled his grandfather's advice to run away from any unfriendly yokai before they could notice him. Minato asked Ranmaru to rush home, but his friend stubbornly refused to get up. Then, the giant yokai noticed the boys, and Minato braced himself for the worst. At this moment, a strange man appeared near the two boys. When Minato opened his eyes, the yokai was already gone, and the strange man kindly reminded the two boys to go home and cool off. He then asked the boys if there were any hot spring around town. Minato wondered if the man had a prior reservation for an inn, but the man denies it. Hearing this, Ranmaru told the man that he wouldn't be able to find any inns, since their town was a popular tourist spot year-round. The man thought about it for a bit, but then he told Minato that he would negotiate a room at his family's inn. Minato wondered how the man knew about his family's inn, but the man refused to answer and kept moving forward. Then, after they arrived at the inn, somehow one of the guests left their room, which allowed the man to book his own spot. As the man stayed in the inn, Minato noticed that the local yokai around him had started to become restless. Minato didn't understand at that moment, so he kept living normally. In the meantime, the strange man would keep stealing glances at him, watching him do normal tasks like homework. Out of nowhere, he praised Minato for his pretty handwriting. The man noted that his handwriting was very easy to read, which showed him that Minato had a pure heart. Minato thanked him for the compliment and even made a nameplate for his family at his advice. At the time, Minato didn't realize it, but now he realizes that the strange man could see his exorcism powers. Yamagami tells him that the strange man was most likely a true exorcist. He explains that although Harama's group also performs exorcisms, their powers are limited since they are still normal civilians. On the other hand, true exorcists like the strange man are real masters of the skill, so most yokai naturally avoid them out of fear. Then, Yamagami asks Minato about his progress on the sealing powers. Minato explains that he's still practicing, so Yamagami tells him that there's a hint in his memories that can help him master the power. He points to the exorcist's words, so Minato recalls his praises about his pure heart. This gives him the idea to imagine sealing his own pure heart and emotions into the talismans he's creating. As Minato tries to seal his powers with this new approach, the talisman glows with a bright, pure light. Yamagami tells him that he has succeeded in completely sealing his powers into the talisman, leaving him pleasantly surprised. Meanwhile, in a remote, haunted establishment, Harama's two sisters fight off a bunch of evil spirits. The older sister, called Tsubaki, watches as Harama and Katsuragi catch up to them. The girls feel relieved by the backup, since their powers are exhausted. Then, they ask Harama to give them some more talismans, so he obliges. Behind them, some more girls rush towards Harama as a bunch of evil spirits chase them. Harama quickly throws them some talismans as well, so the girls use them and wipe out all of the evil spirits. After defeating the spirits, the girls feel relieved and start discussing their vacation plans as if it were nothing. Although Harama and Katsuragi are shocked by their unprofessional behavior, they remain silent. Tsubaki then turns around and wonders if Harama still has more talismans. He tells her that he's already out, so she tells him to get more from Minato. As Harama turns around to leave, the other girls curiously ask him about his powerful backing, wondering if Minato is some kind of hot guy. Harama is left speechless, while his sister points out that the poor man can't judge looks at all. Afterward, he visits Minato's house and steps inside. With just the first step, Harama feels a crushing pressure on his body. He wonders if the spirits living inside Minato's house have increased even more. After struggling to walk, the poor man finally gets to sit down with Minato. Minato notices how winded Harama looks, but Harama doesn't care about himself. Instead, he asks him for another batch of talismans. Just then, Harama notices the water in Minato's pond splashing for no reason. He wonders if some evil spirits have invaded and are wreaking havoc, but Minato notices that it's just Oryu and Reiki playing around. He tells Harama to stop worrying about the water and reveals that he has created new talismans with his sealing powers. Minato explains that the new talismans should last longer due to the seal, so Harama thanks him for the upgrade and accepts the fresh batch. Then, he feels a sudden pain in his shoulder. Minato finally asks Harama if he's doing alright, so he explains that he's been exhausted from dealing with an increased amount of evil spirits every day. Then, Fujin and Reijin pop up near Minato. Minato. Both of them feel bad for Harama's pitiful condition, so they wonder if they can help him somehow. Raijin suggests using electrotherapy to treat his stiff muscles, so Minato tells Harama that he's going to get a nice spa massage. However, the poor man ends up getting electrocuted into unconsciousness instead. Raijin wonders why his therapy didn't work, failing to realize that he used too much voltage. Afterward, Minato drops Harama back home and leaves with Yamagami to do some shopping. On the way to the shop, Minato notices an incredible amount of resentment in the area. He stops to look at the problem, but before he can even turn around, an abandoned domain portal opens up behind them and swallows them both whole. Inside, both of them get sucked into a dense, suffocating cave. Seeing the desolate environment, Minato realizes that it must be a truly abandoned domain. Yamagami nods and explains that Minato can exit the domain by cutting space with his wind powers. However, he also knows that Minato can't let a dangerous domain like this float around in town. Minato agrees, and both of them explore the domain to find the owner. After some time, they reach a place where Minato finds an old sword surrounded by intense hatred. He wonders if swords can also be spirits, but Yamagami explains that this spirit was likely invited by people to inhabit the sword as its home. Minato feels upset by all the hatred surrounding the spirit, so Yamagami asks if he's going to exorcise the spirit. However, Minato refuses to exorcise it, thinking that the spirit is feeling anger due to a reason. He notices all of the rust around the sword's body, which shows him that the people who invited the spirit into the sword stopped taking care of its home. Eventually, the spirit got angry and abandoned them, but it was the humans' fault for hurting it. Knowing this, Minato decides to use a different kind of talisman that will only purify the hatred around the spirit. As he shines the talisman at the sword, Yamagami praises him for his power, noting that any normal talisman would have failed to purify so much hatred. After Minato removes the outer layer of hatred around the sword, Yamagami steps in and completely purifies the spirit inside. Once he's done, the sword disappears, but Yamagami reassures Minato that the spirit is fine. Then, the domain starts collapsing around them since its owner has lost its powers. Yamagami reminds Minato to use his wind powers, so he nods and prepares to exit the domain. Meanwhile, in the outside world, Katsuragi continues to fight evil spirits in another area. As the spirits keep on increasing, he wonders why Ikijo isn't showing up to help. Elsewhere, Ikijo is left helpless as a bunch of evil spirits corner him. He screams for Horikawa to help him, so she uses her talismans to save his life. Despite her huge favor, Ikijo's pride refuses to let him thank her. He almost calls her cute, but then he gets all arrogant and tells her that she should have been faster with her work. Horikawa gets annoyed by his ungrateful behavior, so she plays a wind chime sound on her phone, which causes Ikijo to get PTSD. Outside the haunted establishment, Harama's harem struggles with the amount of evil spirits surrounding them. Since all of the girls are out of Minato's cheat code talismans, they can only wait for Harama to show up on time with another batch. Thankfully, he appears in the nick of time and saves them all. All of the girls rush to Harama, who shows them the new batch of talismans. He explains that this batch is even stronger than before, so the girls feel impressed by Minato's capabilities. Behind them, Minato and Yamagami exit from a portal of the abandoned domain. Minato steps out holding a talisman, so its blinding light stuns Harama and the girls. The girls think that it's some kind of magic savior, so they thank Minato for his presence. Meanwhile, Minato wonders why Harama has a harem of such beautiful women. Yamagami thinks that they're probably just his sisters, but Minato wonders why everyone else looks so uncomfortable. Yamagami tells him it's because he's shining his bright talismans in their faces, so Minato finally stops. He then starts leaving the area, but just then, Katsuragi and Horikawa leave the building. As Minato's gaze lands on Katsuragi, he recalls that the strange man from his childhood used to wear the same hat. However, he thinks there's no way Katsuragi is related to him and leaves the place with Yamagami. Just then, some wind blows, so Katsuragi adjusts his hat. Horikawa notes that he really likes the hat, so he explains that it's a gift from his dad. From a distance, Harama notes some other exorcists spying on them, wondering what they want. Back in Minato's house, Yamagami turns back to his normal size after restoring his energy with some buns. As he scratches his body, a strange orb falls out of his fur. Yamagami explains that this orb contains the purified sword spirit, which is currently resting to restore its power. Minato picks up the orb and places it inside a suitable location, hoping it recovers recovers soon, while Yamagami smiles silently. A few days later, Minato walks home, sweating from the intense heat. As he finally enters the house, he is grateful that it's a comfortable magic domain. Noticing the hot weather, Yamagami decides that it's time to renovate the house a little bit. Minato warns him that he'll consume too much power and turn back to his small size. But Yamagami refuses to stop. He adds a stream and an arch, but still feels like the house is missing something. Finally, Yamagami creates a big waterfall, which adds the soothing sound of flowing water to the garden. Minato is pleasantly surprised by the natural sounds, but then he realizes that Yamagami has turned back into his chibai size after ignoring all his warnings. Afterward, even the ferrets scold Yamagami for abusing his power too much. He ignores their scolding, so Minato wonders why he's so obsessed with renovating the house anyway. Yamagami explains that he simply does it as a hobby, to make the garden's appearance match the current season. Minato points out that Yamagami's own mountain is quite a mess, so he acts like he's simply letting the natural landscape exist on its own. Minato refrains from calling Yamagami out on his laziness, and instead, he wonders when the spirit he rescued from the abandoned domain will wake up. The ferrets reassure Minato that it'll wake up soon once it has recovered all its energy. Then, one of them calls Minato to Yamagami's stream, showing him a bunch of koi fish that have appeared inside. Minato wonders if Yamagami also placed the koi inside, but he explains that these fish have wandered off on their own. Hearing this, Minato realizes that the fish are swimming towards a dead end in the waterfall. To his surprise, the fish somehow flew over the waterfall and ascended straight into the sky. Yamagami explains that the koi fish are actually the minions of another deity, before Minato recalls a legend about the koi. He wonders if the koi fish will also turn into dragons like the legend, since they've ascended the waterfall in his garden. For a little while, nothing happens. Then, all of a sudden, a massive dragon actually appears from the sky. Minato is terrified, thinking that the giant dragon will attack him. However, the minions reassure him that this dragon is actually Oryu's friend. As the dragon stops in front of Oryu, Minato closes his eyes as it glows with a brilliant light. Once the light dies down, Minato sees that the big dragon has transformed into a small form. After it greets Oryu, the dragon goes to Minato holding a small box. The ferrets explain that it's giving him a gift as a token of friendship, so Minato happily accepts it. However, the dragon keeps on piling gift after gift into his hands, so Minato tells it to stop after a while. The dragon then spends some time with Oryu in the garden before leaving for its duties. After the dragon leaves, Minato opens the gift boxes it gave him. He finds a bunch of sweet treats inside and offers them to Yamagami so he can eat them and grow back to his normal size. Yamagami accepts all of the gifts and starts chowing down, but after eating most of the sweets, he shows no signs of returning to his big form. Minato and the ferrets get worried, but even after eating the final sweet, Yamagami remains in his tiny form. The ferrets think that Yamagami just needs to eat more to regain his strength, so Minato leaves to buy some more food from the market. On the way there, Minato encounters a small hill, which he recognizes as Tsumugi's master's domain. Minato wonders why she has such a small domain, but Yamagami tells him that creatures like them don't require large homes to show off their power. Suddenly, a strong force starts pulling Minato towards the hill, so Yamagami steps up and defends him. As Minato struggles to regain his bearings, Yamagami stares at the master of the mountain, who is a nine-tailed fox. Minato wonders if this fox is a yakai, but Yamagami tells him that she's Tsumugi's master, Tenko. Minato notes that Tenko isn't very friendly to Yamagami and learns that she wanted to see him instead. This makes him confused, since he has never met Tenko before, so Yamagami explains that she saw him through Tsumugi's eyes. Then, he tells Minato that Tenko might have her eyes on his yummy food, so he should be careful when dealing with her. Meanwhile, in the local exorcist headquarters, Haruma reports the appearance of the foreign exorcists in their town. Horikawa explains that the man he saw, called Ansho, has been seen in another town as hell. She offers to investigate the man's background. so Harima thanks her for her assistance. In the other town, two quack exorcists sit near an old granny with back pain. The grandma complains about her weak bones, but the fake exorcists pretend that she is being cursed by an evil spirit. The innocent grandma easily trusts them, so the man scams her for some useless talismans, claiming that they'll heal her back. A few days later, back in Minato's house, Yamagami remains in his tiny form despite having eaten enough food to feed the entire town for a year. Still, Yamagami avoids him, acting as if he'll just return to his normal size with enough time. Then, he points to the Kusunoki tree, which has grown a lot larger and shed some of its branches. Seeing that he's got some fresh wood, Minato decides to practice his engraving and sealing powers. He sits down and starts carving with a chisel, but as the Kirin watches him work, it thinks that Minato is using a dangerous war weapon. It starts panicking, wondering if Minato is going to unleash a brutal slaughter, so the rest of the creatures force it to calm down. Meanwhile, Yamagami is curious about Minato's project, so he explains that he's making keyrings with his powers sealed inside. Yamagami thinks it's a good idea, so Minato gives him his first keyring as an amulet for protection. Then, a small squirrel calls to Minato from a distance. Yamagami explains that the squirrel wants to have one of his keychains, but Minato tells him that the rest of his attempts were failures. The squirrel doesn't mind, even if it gets a failed piece, so Minato gives it another piece. The small animal happily accepts his gift and takes it back to its tree. There, it uses the amulet to treat its partner, who is suffering from an evil curse. After the curse is cured, the squirrel drops the amulet and goes on happily with its day. Afterward, Minato and the others sit down to have lunch. Yamagami warns Minato to eat quickly before Tsumugi can show up, but it's already too late. As the black fox announces its presence, Minato naturally allows it to come down and have lunch with him. Tsumugi happily accepts the offer and comes inside to eat, but then it remembers the purpose of its visit. It apologizes to Minato for Tenko's earlier behavior, saying that she was way too aggressive to her neighbors. Minato easily forgives Tenko, feeling happy that he got to see a new magical creature. Tsumugi also gets excited at the mention of her master and starts bragging about her power. However, she also feels bad that Tenko's shrine is always very busy. Suddenly, Tsumugi's body starts glowing, and Yamagami notices that something is wrong. Out of nowhere, Tenko occupies Tsumugi's body and invites Minato to her mountain. She tells him to bring over the food, but Yamagami calls her a shameless glutton. He points out that she is intruding in another person's domain, but Tenko reminds him that since Minato has allowed her to enter, she isn't an intruder at all. Yamagami refuses to accept her and gets even angrier, but Tenko continues to look down on him. This causes him to attack her, but she easily blocks the magic attack with her defenses. After blocking Yamagami's attack, Tenko laughs at him and mocks him for his pitiful power. Yamagami refuses to back down and attacks her again, but she blocks it effortlessly. Then, she taunts him for being so weak that even her minion Tsumugi can fight him with her body. Somehow, Yamagami's ego is too big for him to admit his loss, so he continues to fight Tenko. While clashing, both of them keep bickering with each other, with Tenko continuing to mock Yamagami's power. The two of them take the fight outside. Flying around as they trade blows in the sky, Tenko keeps mocking Yamagami, pointing out how slow he has gotten. Although Minato begs the two to stop, neither side pays attention to him. Finally, Yamagami decides to use his full power against Tenko in one go. He tries to charge an attack, but Tenko avoids him and launches a powerful attack in Minato's direction instead. Minato rushes to cover himself, but Yamagami charges in front of him and takes the blow to his own body. After Yamagami falls to the ground, Tenko starts gloating over him for her 22nd victory. Yamagami wonders why she's petty enough to keep track of stupid squabbles, while Tenko thinks he should stop playing with humans and start focusing on his power again. In response, Yamagami tells her to stop charming the priests of her shrine. Tenko gets offended by his words and claims that her followers fall in love with her without any action. Yamagami doesn't believe her words, but Tenko warns him that if he continues to involve himself with a human, he'll soon meet his end. Then, she finally disappears from the garden. Minato wonders if Yamagami is okay, so he tells him that it was just a small squabble. Still, Minato thinks it was too dangerous and caused injuries to his body. Yamagami looks down at Minato's amulet, which was shattered during his fight. He apologizes for breaking his gift, but Minato reassures him that he can always make another. Then, Yamagami sits down down to rest. Minato thinks about Tenko's words and wonders if he's creating any dangers for Yamagami. Yamagami tells him not to worry about it, reminding him that he is choosing to live in his garden of his own free will. Minato asks Yamagami if they can continue staying together, so he reassures him that they can. Elsewhere, the two scammer exorcists count their money as they head back home. Suddenly, Katsuragi's minions start harassing them, so they try to run away. However, Haruma corners them from the other direction and tells them to get out of his town. Terrified, both con artists run away, while Haruma and Katsuragi hope that they stop bothering them. As the scammers run into a forest, they encounter the amulet the squirrel dropped from its tree. One of them picks it up, surprised by the power inside. A few days later, Minato brings in a big box of oranges sent by his mom. As the ferrets notice the box, they all get excited over the fruit. Minato looks around, noting that Yamagami is quietly reading a magazine alone. He wonders if the poor guy is still depressed because he hasn't returned to his normal size yet. Minato also recalls Yamagami's fight with Tenko and wonders if he's just suffering from a bruised ego. To help him heal his pride, he decides to take him out for a walk. When Yamagami hears that they're going out for sweets, he naturally gets excited but doesn't show it on the surface. The ferrets encourage him to go with Minato, so he easily agrees. As the two of them walk through town, Minato offers to let Yamagami sit on his shoulder. He accepts, so Minato continues walking with a small wolf on his shoulder. After entering the main street, Minato asks Yamagami if he has spotted any restaurants he likes. Yamagami admits that it's hard to choose just one, but then he notices a certain building in the distance. It's actually a local publishing headquarters, but for some reason, Yamagami goes inside. Inside the building, an overworked employee gets off a lift, wondering if his local magazine release is getting any readers at all. The company's president reassures Toda that his previous month's bean paste cover went really well, but the employee doesn't feel convinced. After the president leaves, he wonders if his magazines are really being read by the mysterious creature called Yamagami. Suddenly, an evil ghost comes behind Toda to possess him. Although he's frightened, Toda is powerless against the ghost's attack. Thankfully, Yamagami shows up just in time to dispel the evil spirit. As Minato follows behind, calling for Yamagami, Toda is shocked to learn that the little white wolf in front of him is the legendary Yamagami. Minato wonders how the man can see him, so Yamagami explains that he's allowing this man to see him. Then, he asks Toda if he's the one who writes the articles on Japanese sweets. Toda nods, so Yamagami tells him that he always looks forward to reading his articles in the magazine. Hearing this, the overjoyed Toda tears up. Then, he asks Yamagami if he'd like to meet his president, since he and all the other employees have been wanting to see him. Yamagami agrees, so Toda quickly contacts all of his co-workers. Soon enough, the entire company rushes downstairs to meet their local celebrity. At first, the president looks around for Yamagami, so Minato tells him that it's actually the small animal in front of him. The president explains that his company's previous president loved talking about Yamagami. Back then, Yamagami had helped his company grow, so the two of them became friends and started visiting sweets shops together. Yamagami reassures the employees that he's still connected to their company since he reads their magazines. However, he mentions a concern with their sweets article. The employees gulp nervously, wondering if they've made a mistake to offend Yamagami. However, he only tells them to feature his favorite smooth bean paste buns for the next few months, so all the employees quickly agree. After his chat with the publishing company, Yamagami tells Minato it's time to head back out. As the two of them walk through the street again, Minato is surprised that Yamagami knows more people. Yamagami explains that 100 years ago, a lot more people were around who could see magical creatures like him. Then, the two of them smell some delicious curry from a nearby restaurant, so Minato goes inside for lunch. Once they enter, a waitress welcomes both of them and sets down two menus in front of Minato. He wonders if the waitress can see Yamagami as well, but he denies it. Then, he causes the menu to float with his magic powers to read through it. Minato gets startled since he doesn't want the surrounding people to notice, but Yamagami tells him to stop worrying and just focus on the food. He then points to the other customers in the restaurant, who all have some kind of magical companion with them. One woman has a tiny female friend, while another man has a huge bunch of yakai crawling around his table. Minato wonders why he couldn't see the yakai, so Yamagami explains that his senses have been dulled after living in his peaceful house for so long without any external visitors. Then, Then, he reminds Minato to actually order their curry. After the food arrives, Yamagami immediately starts eating. Minato feels relieved that he likes the food, but then he notices one of the customers who has a pair of moving scissors. Yamagami reveals that when someone cherishes an important tool for a period of time, it can gain a soul of its own. He tells Minato that there's a similar soul tool in his house, but Minato doesn't know. Yamagami explains that it's the wind chime in the house. This confuses Minato even more, since he has never seen the wind chime move on its own. Yamagami tells him that the wind chime doesn't want to stop being one, so it never performs any unnecessary movement. After learning this, Minato notes that the restaurant bell did not ring, even though a customer had just left. Yamagami explains that the bell is also a soul tool, but it only rings when a supernatural presence enters the restaurant. Because of this, the waitress gave Minato 2 menus, even though she couldn't see who entered with him. Then, Yamagami gets a call from one of the ferrets, who tells him that some unwanted visitors have arrived at Minato's house. It's the 2 quack exorcists, so Yamagami tells the ferrets to keep a good eye on them. As the exorcists look around, they feel disgusted by the countryside scent around them. However, the elder brother feels determined to enter Minato's house and buy some cheap charms to help him increase his own sales. They ring the doorbell for a bit, but since Minato isn't home, nobody answers the door. After a while, the men get frustrated. Instead of waiting for the owner to come back home, they decide to just break into the house, watching them commit a literal crime without hesitation. The ferrets get disgusted by the men's dirty tricks. Yamagami tells them to take care of them since these men don't know when to back down. The ferrets happily agree and let the men struggle with the door for a little while longer. Then, they allow them to open the main door. As the men enter the mansion, they find the inner building's door and try to break it open as well. To their surprise, it easily opens as if it were unlocked. The men are shocked that the owner of the house is so careless, but they accept the surprise and enter the house. Inside, they find a big corridor with a door at the end. Both men are surprised by the house's size, but they continue walking deeper. However, after opening another door, they find a similar hallway with a door at the end. This continues for a while, and it feels like both men have entered the back rooms. After a while, the elder brother realizes something is wrong. He also wonders why the house smells like oranges, but it's only because the 3 ferrets following him are eating some. Suddenly, a black fog starts rushing out from the house's depths. It claws towards the men, tearing everything in its path, so both men start rushing back out. However, the black fog is much faster than them, and soon, it catches them and rips them apart. Thankfully, it's just a dream, and the men wake up outside the house. Terrified by their experience, the 2 men finally run away. The ferrets watch in satisfaction. While they run away, a strange bird peeks out at them from behind a tree. Meanwhile, Minato walks out of the curry restaurant after a good meal with Yamagami. Although Yamagami seems happy with the experience, Minato notes that he's still not turning back to his normal form. Yamagami doesn't seem to notice his concerns, so he asks Minato to go home. Before they start leaving, he tells Minato about the exorcists, who were driven away by an angry black fog that smelled like summer oranges. After a short while of walking, Minato notices that Yamagami is wagging his tail on his shoulder. He wonders if he enjoys the ride, so Yamagami admits that he likes it. Then, the 2 of them encounter an old lady at a shrine. She offers some flowers to the shrine and prays to her deity, so Minato wonders which one it is. The old lady then notices Minato as well and wonders if he's here to visit the shrine as well. Suddenly, the lady's daughter calls to her from behind, worried that her old mother would get lost. She asks her mother to go back home with her, but Minato interrupts and wonders who the shrine is dedicated to. The woman explains that her mother loves the mountain deity nearby, so she pays her respects to the shrine dedicated to it. Then, she helps her mother walk back home. Minato thinks about it, realizing that a lot of townsfolk still respect Yamagami in their hearts. As he turns to face Yamagami, he is shocked to see him back to his full glory. In fact, Yamagami's brilliance is too much for Minato to bear, so he tones it down a bit. Yamagami isn't the least bit surprised, thinking it's only normal that he returned to his big form. However, Minato doesn't understand why. He wonders if he was just depressed because of his loss to Tenko, but Yamagami tells him he just used too much power. Then, Minato asks why he was so depressed about the magazine in the morning, so Yamagami tells him it was the chunky paste. Hearing this, Minato realizes he has been worrying for nothing. Both of them start walking back home, and Minato wonders if Yamagami returned to his full power because of all all the people who still love and respect him. Meanwhile, in the local exorcist headquarters, a penguin notifies Katsuragi that the quack exorcists tried to raid Minato's house. Thankfully, they learn that the exorcists were somehow outsmarted and kicked out of the house. Elsewhere, near a forest, the brothers are considering heading back home. Despite their horrible experiences, the elder brother refuses to give up until he makes a killing off of scamming this town. Suddenly, a giant domain opens up in front of the men, who have no idea what's about to happen to them. Some days later, Harima shows up at Minato's house to beg for some talismans again. Unfortunately, he fails to sense all the creatures inside the house, putting invisible pressure on him. When Minato opens the door, he is surprised to see even Ho-Oh and Oryu bullying the overworked wage worker. While the poor man struggles to walk, nobody notices a strange, glowing light nearby. After a short while, Harima finally makes it inside. He explains that Minato's talismans are working quite well against the evil spirits, but recently, the number of spirits has increased in town. To combat this, Harima and the other exorcists have started hanging his talismans everywhere. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, the evil spirits keep on increasing in number. Minato wonders why the spirits keep growing, so Harima reassures him that he's investigating the matter. Then, he gives him a batch of sweets as thanks for his sponsorship. Although Minato is used to his gifts, he can't help but notice that Harima is giving him an insane amount today. He explains that the extra gifts come from his sisters and cousins, who wanted to thank Minato for his earlier help. After his explanation, Harima asks if Minato has encountered two rogue exorcists trying to barge into his house. Minato asks the ferrets, who tell him that they drove the two quacks away. He tells Harima about this, who nods, but tells him to stay cautious since the stubborn quacks could return at any time. Afterward, Harima leaves, and the ferrets start eating the treats he left. Minato notices that Yamagami is worried about Harima's words, so he asks him what's wrong. Yamagami tells him that the evil spirits aren't popping out of nowhere, so he's worried that someone sinister has been stirring the pot. While Yamagami hopes nothing bad happens, suddenly, a small decoration inside Minato's pond starts glowing. Soon, the glow erupts into a golden light, and a young man wrapped with an 8-headed snake comes out of it. Minato nervously greets the man, whose snake greets him in return. Then, the man starts ominously observing Minato, so he wonders if he's the bad person Yamagami was worried about. However, Yamagami doesn't care at all, so Minato figures that the guy isn't some kind of supervillain. For some reason, the guy isn't as hostile as Minato thought. The strange guy tells Minato that he has been interested in him ever since his big sister told him about him. Minato wonders who his sister is, so the guy explains that she gave him her powers not too long ago. This finally makes Minato realize that the guy is the younger brother of Amaterasu, who gave him her sealing powers. But then, Minato remembers a popular piece of folklore and realizes that this guy is called Susanoo. He asks Susanoo to give his thanks to his sister, while the young man apologizes for barging into his property so suddenly. He then summons a big bucket full of juice as an apology. In an instant, Reiki comes over to drink the magic juice, and Susanoo's own pet snake, Orochi, also goes to have a sample. However, Susanoo gets mad and yells at Orochi for stealing a guest's gift. Suddenly, the snake turns rebellious and challenges Susanoo to a fight. The hot-blooded young man gets enraged and pulls out his knife on his own companion, so Minato watches as the two of them start fighting like rabid dogs. Minato asks Yamagami for help, but the old dog is fast asleep. Then, he asks Susanoo and Orochi to stop fighting. Susanoo stops for a bit, but wonders why Minato wants him to. He reminds him that if he slashes off Orochi's heads, a sword will come out of its tail. Minato is interested in this discovery, but he still tells Susanoo to restrain himself. Of course, he doesn't actually believe that Minato is so peaceful, so he turns around and slashes at him as well. Somehow, Minato blocks Susanoo's blade with his wind powers. Susanoo is surprised by his strength, but he still thinks Minato is too weak. Then, he offers to train Minato to solve his skill issue. Minato tries to refuse his kind offer, but Susanoo doesn't take no for an answer. He grabs Minato's hand and drags him away before jumping off into the sky. After flying off for a bit, Susanoo opens up a divine domain and takes Minato straight inside. After he leaves, Yamagami finally wakes up from the commotion. For some reason, he doesn't feel too worried for Minato. Orochi also laughs with him and asks if they should check on the kids, so both of them leave and enter the domain as well. After Susanoo enters the domain, he drops Minato to the ground without mercy. Minato grumbles about the horrible treatment, but Susanoo doesn't care about it at all. Then, he points his sword at him again. Before Susanoo can begin the fight, Minato notices Yamagami flying into the domain. His face lights up with joy, but Minato soon realizes that Yamagami is simply out here on a stroll with his old buddy Orochi. Not because he's here to babysit him. As Yamagami and Orochi settle down, both of them admire the peaceful scenery and relax. Minato realizes he'll have to face Susanoo all by himself, so he turns around and looks at him, upset that he got ignored. Susanoo slashes his sword at Minato. After blocking the slash, Minato turns around and starts running away. Angered by his cowardly actions, Susanoo chases after him and keeps on slashing. As Minato dodges the attacks, they destroy the houses behind him instead. Minato feels worried for all the people in the houses, but Susanoo reassures him that all of the houses are empty. He then corners Minato and knocks him down. After getting humbled, Minato starts complaining that he doesn't even have a weapon. Susanoo reminds Minato that nobody is stopping him from using a weapon either, but Minato refuses to use one. He claims that he only wants to protect himself and the people around him, so his current powers are enough for that purpose. However, Susanoo only scoffs at Minato's naive thoughts. He wonders if Minato truly believes that his pitiful wind powers can protect everyone around him, despite all the magical threats surrounding them. Then, he tells Minato that he's the only person Fujin has given his wind powers to, so if he keeps them so weak, it will make him look bad. Minato is shocked by this, but Susanoo reassures him that he is the first person in history to have received these special wind powers. Finally, Minato realizes that he hasn't been taking the poor guy seriously at all. He apologizes to Susanoo for treating him disrespectfully, but Susanoo gets offended since he thinks he's being treated like a senior. He angrily tells Minato that he doesn't need any pleasantries since he's not an old monk. Minato quickly agrees to treat him like a young man again, while the other two watch this scene from a distance. Both Yamagami and Orochi start laughing, thinking that Susanoo is still a kid, since they have both seen him grow up. Then, they start eating and laughing together, surprising Minato with their lack of concern. Suddenly, Susanoo strikes at Minato without warning, so he's forced to focus on the battle once more. Meanwhile, in the city, the two quack exorcists move around town. Along the way, they tear off Minato's talismans wherever they can find them, hoping to increase the number of evil spirits to allow them to scam more people. However, they soon notice Katsuraga's minions chomping down on some rogue evil spirits, so they quickly flee the scene. Although Katsuragi doesn't notice them at first, he soon catches them running away. Haruma then catches up to him, so he shows him the work of the two quacks. Haruma nods, understanding why the evil spirits in town aren't decreasing. However, he points out that even without Minato's talismans, the number of evil spirits should not increase on its own. As the two of them wonder why so many spirits are spawning, Horikawa hurries over. She informs both men that there is a large miasma nearby, which seems to be the source of all the evil spirits plaguing their town. Both Katsuragi and Haruma leave to check out the source. Meanwhile, Minato and Susanoo continue their practice battle. As Susanoo chases Minato, he wonders what to do, since his opponent is too strong for him. Then, as Susanoo jumps up to attack him, Minato launches a counterattack that forces him back. Surprised, Susanoo still tells Minato that his attack was too weak. Then, he prepares to land the killing blow on him. Seeing Susanoo's confident expression, Minato realizes that he cannot touch him with his long-range wind blasts. This time, he decides to take a gamble, and he allows Susanoo to attack him with no defense. As Susanoo gets closer, Minato suddenly reacts and powers all of his wind magic into one close-range blast. The concentrated wind repels Susanoo's attack and completely blows him away, leaving him stunned. After recovering from the blow, Susanoo smiles and praises Minato for baiting him and using his power in such a smart way. Then, he tells Minato that their training is over since he has learnt a new technique. Minato is surprised that he earned his praise, but Susanoo reminds him that he literally has thousands of years worth of experience, so he did a great job by standing up against him. However, he still reminds Minato that he has a long way to go before he can reach Fujin's level. Watching the scene from a distance, Yamagami smiles, and Susanoo brings Minato away to have lunch. After Minato prepares lunch, Susanoo devours it like a starved animal. He notes that one of the dishes doesn't taste very good, so Minato admits that he simply used some store-bought ingredients for it. Then, he tells Minato to start paying more attention to small things to help him improve his powers as well. Nearby, the three fortunes get annoyed by Orochi's loud snoring. Susanoo ignores them all and wonders how Minato can remain so skinny despite eating so many high-calorie foods. Both of them start arguing, so Minato calls out Susanoo as well. He changes the topic before he becomes too angry and asks Minato if Yamagami has been overusing his powers recently. Minato nods, so Susanoo tells him to support the old dog with everything he has. Minato wonders if Susanoo is training him so he can support Yamagami in need, but the young old man is too much of a tsundere to admit it out loud. Then, Susanoo asks Minato when he wants to train next. Unfortunately, before he can make further plans, Amaterasu steps out of a portal. She gets angry at Susanoo for causing such a ruckus and starts dragging him back home. Even the three ferrets come over to help him out, offering her some fruits to eat, but Amaterasu firmly leaves and apologizes for her brother's mess. Elsewhere, the Exorcist team reaches the source of the dark miasma. As the creepy fog surrounds them, they notice all the evil spirits in the area flocking around a giant domain in the sky. The domain refuses to stay still, and it keeps moving through the sky. Watching this scene, Yamagami feels oddly serious, while elsewhere, a familiar man keeps an eye on it as well. Days later, Minato visits a festival in town with Yamagami and ferrets. As they look around the festival stalls, they run into Ichigo and his grandson, who are also setting up their stall there. Minato asks Ichigo what he'll be selling at his store, so he explains that he's making some bean buns in honor of the mountain's white dog. Aside from them, the rest of the shopkeepers also set their stalls to please Yamagami, so he starts glowing radiantly as he receives their respect. In this moment, Minato realizes that Yamagami lives on the townsfolk's sentiment, so the more they admire him, the stronger he becomes. Then, he offers to help Yamagami enjoy the festival once it's set up. Elsewhere, Tenko looks into the dark sky from a distance as an ominous domain opens up in the vast sky. Her eyes narrow with anticipation. Afterward, as Minato and the others are walking back home, they encounter a group of kids playing with Beyblades. Minato notes that Yamagami is interested in spinning tops, so he asks if he wants to play as well. Then, he takes one of the Beyblades and shows him how to launch it. Yamagami tries to copy Minato's technique, but unfortunately, he doesn't have human hands, so his launch completely fails. After a while of helping Yamagami, he keeps failing to launch the simple toy. In the end, Yamagami gets completely frustrated, and he gives up on the Beyblade. He complains about the ring feeling too restrictive, so Minato tells him to relax and try to launch the Beyblades into the actual ring. Finally, Yamagami calms down and launches the Beyblade with less power, so it successfully lands in the ring. Now that Yamagami can officially launch his own Beyblades, Minato gets ready to take him on. The ferrets explain the battle rules and act as referees, and both Yamagami and Minato prepare to launch their Beyblades. At the count of 3, both of them launch the spinning tops. It's a tough battle, but in the end, after waiting for a while, Minato's Beyblade stops spinning first. Elsewhere in town, Haruma and his co-workers go around inspecting the torn charms. Haruma thinks that the two quack exorcists are related to the evil spirit domain that they saw earlier, but Katsuragi thinks there's no way those buffoons can pull off something so massive. Ichijo and Haruma still think that the two quacks are responsible for the crisis, but before they can speak up, Horikawa shows up with some urgent information. Ichijo feels relieved that she's okay, but then he starts acting all nonchalant like he doesn't care at all. Then, Horikawa informs everyone that she has found a lead on the quack's location. Although the team doesn't know where the information came from, they decide to trust it and rush towards the location. Nearby, in a hidden alley, the strange exorcist from Minato's childhood makes a move. As Minato walks through a town street, he catches a glimpse of the man. Recalling the man from his memories, he rushes to talk to him. However, as he chases after him, he ends up completely losing track of the guy. Yamagami and the others follow him, curious about his reaction, so Minato explains who he was looking for. Hearing this, Yamagami reminds Minato that the strange man is a fellow exorcist, so he's probably making a move since he's sensing something wrong about town. Minato doesn't know about the dangerous domain yet, so he wonders what Yamagami is talking about. Then, some wind spirits also warn him that danger is incoming. Soon, Fujin and Reijin appear, informing Minato that a huge danger is quickly approaching the town. They reveal that it's a big abandoned domain filled with evil spirits, and it's headed straight for their town. Hearing this, Minato turns to Yamagami, who confirms that the strange danger he's sensing is the same thing. Deep inside the abandoned portal, Yamagami warns everyone that an incredibly powerful being is staying. Elsewhere in town, the two quacks feel good as they recount all the earnings they've made from exorcising evil spirits. Ever since the abandoned portal appeared, the number of evil spirits had increased in town, allowing these two scammers to make big bucks. Thankfully, Katsuragi and the others show up just in time to arrest them. As the scammers turn around to flee, Horikawa and Ikijo also corner them, resulting in them finally giving up. After cornering the two buffoons, Katsuragi asks them what they know about the evil portal. The elder scammer tells him that he saw the portal earlier, but he's not the one who made it. At the time, the scammer thought about all the money he could make off exorcising the evil spirits, but he never did anything to attract the spirits out of it. He also confesses that he removed all of Minato's charms from the town's walls to let the spirits run rampant, but he denies any involvement in creating the evil portal. Katsuragi and Haruma keep putting pressure on the guys to confess, but they insist that they've got nothing to do with it. In the end, Horikawa decides to believe them, so Haruma wonders where the vortex really comes from. Suddenly, a loud sound startles Haruma, and he rushes away to investigate the source. Elsewhere in town, the huge portal appears in front of Minato and the others. Soon, Haruma also catches up to them, so Minato tells him about the evil domain. In front of their eyes, the giant domain releases a fresh batch of evil spirits to attack the town. As the spirits rampage through town, the townsfolk start collapsing in pain, while everyone is worried about all the small evil spirits wreaking havoc in town. Yamagami notes that a massive evil spirit is hidden inside the domain, releasing the smaller evil spirits to attack them. He also reveals that this big spirit has turned evil because it hates the local deities in their region. After finishing his explanation, Yamagami steps up to face the giant portal. His body glows with a brilliant light, and it seals the giant portal in the sky. However, Yamagami warns the others that they still need to take care of the smaller spirits. Suddenly, a group of evil spirits attacks Minato, but the three ferrets intercept them. Unfortunately, this causes them to get severely injured. As the ferrets struggle with their injuries, Minato quickly writes down some dispel talismans and cures the evil effects. However, more and more evil spirits keep rushing them, so Yamagami tells Minato to take a step back and charge a giant batch of talismans for a counterattack. Before leaving, Minato informs Haruma that he's going to recharge his talismans, and he asks him to provide cover for him. Then, he turns around and leaves with Yamagami. Without Minato's help, Haruma turns around to block the evil spirits. Unfortunately, the two arrested scammers take this chance to break free and escape. Although Ikijo and Katsuragi try to chase them, Horikawa reminds them that they've got more important problems to deal with, so they turn around and focus on all the evil spirits. After taking cover, Minato hides the three ferrets in a safe spot. Once Minato tucks the ferrets away, Ho-Oh calls him to check something out. Minato follows his call and walks out, shocked to see that the evil domain has reappeared in the sky. Minato wonders how the domain could reappear, so Yamagami explains that he didn't exorcise it. Instead, he had just temporarily shifted it away from town. However, since the portal has reappeared, the entire mountains around them and the animals living in them face a huge danger of getting wiped out. Minato wonders why this evil domain is so dead set on destroying their town, so Yamagami reminds them that the evil spirit hates all the local deities. Since Yamagami was the closest to its portal, the evil spirit is focusing on destroying his town first. Minato feels like the spirit is being unfair, since Yamagami isn't responsible for the actions of the other deities. Of course, the spirit doesn't care, so he might as well try to convince a brick wall. Then, Minato notes that many animals have gathered in his garden, including birds and koi fish. Yamagami tells him that all these animals are here to purify the mountain from the evil spirit's influence. However, as he speaks, his body body starts to disappear. Minato wonders what's happening, and he realizes that since the mountain is Yamagami's home, he's losing his powers from all the corruption. Yamagami nods, but he also explains that a portion of his power comes from the people's respect towards him. In this moment, as they're all attacked by the evil spirits, the people are forgetting all their feelings towards Yamagami. After finishing his explanation, Yamagami tells Minato that he will lose his fox form if the mountain gets completely corrupted. Nearby, Haruma and his co-workers struggle to keep the horde of evil spirits at bay. As Haruma casts a blue barrier, Katsuragi desperately sends his minions to eat the attacking spirits. Unfortunately, it's of no avail, since the spirits keep on increasing in number. Suddenly, a sneaky spirit attacks Horikawa from behind. Shocked, she turns around to defend herself, but the spirit is too fast. In the last moment, Ikijo shows up and destroys the spirit to save her. Feeling worried, he tells Horikawa to be careful, but then he remembers to act like he doesn't care about her. Meanwhile, Minato keeps on increasing his bank of protective talismans. After collecting enough talismans to nuke an entire city of evil spirits, he gets up to face the evil portal. For some reason, the portal actually starts leaving for another town. Minato decides it's time to corner the portal and defeat it before it reaches another town. Yamagami tells him to go ahead, reassuring him that he'll take care of purifying his own mountain. Minato nods and leaves after reminding Yamagami to stay safe for the upcoming town festival. Finally, he leaves and rushes into town with the talismans in hand. As Minato runs in the streets, the wandering exorcist notices him passing by. He spots the glowing green light in his hands, which reminds him of the young boy from years ago. After identifying Minato, the exorcist hopes that he can help him deal with this crisis. Meanwhile, as Haruma gets overwhelmed by the sheer number of evil spirits, his sisters show up to back him up. They all start fighting the spirits off, but just then, the moving portal releases another giant batch of spirits. As Minato notices the new batch of evil spirits, he raises his talismans high to defend himself. His talismans glow a bright green, defeating all the incoming spirits. However, a strong wind blows out of nowhere, which scatters the talismans away from Minato. Without his powers to defend himself, Minato is completely helpless against the remaining spirits. As the spirits charge at him, Minato closes his eyes, but suddenly, Yamagami appears out of nowhere. He blocks the spirits with his powers, but since Yamagami is weakened, he loses his power and returns to his small fox form. Minato knows that Yamagami is in danger, but he's completely helpless as he watches his good friend risking his life for his sake. Although Yamagami successfully repels the evil spirits after an intense struggle, his body starts to flicker after losing so much power. Nearby, Tenko reminds Yamagami that he'll be destroyed soon if he keeps protecting these humans. Yamagami tells her to mind her own business, but she also points out that most townsfolk have already forgotten about his existence. She also criticizes the two quack exorcists who have worsened the situation by removing all of Minati's protective charms from the town. Since the entire town doesn't care about Yamagami, Tenko thinks he's making a mistake by protecting them with his life. However, Yamagami tells her that he loves the locals and their culture, so he'll defend them no matter what. Then, he charges another burst of power and releases an attack that destroys the giant portal in the sky. Minato thinks they've won, but Yamagami tells him that he only destroyed the entrance to the portal, and the main threat is still there. Suddenly, a giant evil spirit appears in the town, and Yamagami tells Minato that it's the source of all the other evil spirits currently attacking them. Then, he tells Minato that he'll have to defeat the giant spirit on his own since he has run out of power from his attacks. Minato feels worried about facing such a challenge on his own, but Yamagami is confident that he can defeat all the evil spirits with his exorcism powers. However, Minato then remembers that he lost all of his talismans to the wind, so he's got nothing to defend himself. As a horde of evil spirits rushes towards Minato, he thinks it's game over. Thankfully, a blue shield protects him, as Haruma reminds Minato that he'll help him to repay all the times he received his talismans. Although Minato is temporarily safe, Yamagami reminds him that the townsfolk are suffering from the effects of the evil miasma. Tenko also warns him that if he doesn't take care of the evil spirit soon, Yamagami Yamagami will completely fade away as the townsfolk forget about him. Feeling anxious, Minato tells Yamagami that his talismans got blown away. As the situation looks hopeless, suddenly Minato's talismans come flying back to him. He looks back, realizing that Fujin has recovered his lost talismans. Minato thanks Fujin for the help, who tells him that it's actually the tiny wind spirits that have carried his talismans all the way over. With his powers back, Minato gives a handful of talismans to Harima. Harima takes care of all the surrounding spirits and tells Minato that he'll clear out the whole town. However, the final responsibility to defeat the evil spirit boss is still on Minato's shoulders. Minato feels worried, but he finally decides to use his wind powers to try to hit the giant spirit with his talismans. Yamagami also encourages Minato to go ahead with his plan, and everyone waits for him to take action. Minato uses a wind blast to launch some talismans at the giant spirit, but it actually blocks them by spitting out a dark miasma. Then, the spirit attacks Minato with its limbs. After Minato dodges the attacks, he scouts the surroundings and spots the Beyblade stadium he played in some time ago. The spinning tops give him an idea, and Minato starts working on a new way to attack the evil spirit. Using his wind magic, he starts spinning a bunch of talismans in the air, creating a powerful tornado to bypass the spirit's defenses. Unfortunately, a bunch of smaller spirits attack Minato while he's still charging the tornado. Although Minato has no way to defend himself, Tenko protects his body and tells him to focus on the final boss. Once the tornado is ready, Minato launches it at the giant evil spirit, and this time, the talismans easily reach it and destroy its body. Soon after, the rest of the talismans shoot out and destroy the remaining small evil spirits in town. After all the spirits disappear, the black clouds clear from the town, and everything returns back to normal. Minato collapses to the ground, exhausted from his work. Then, he receives a call from a worried Harima and reassures him that he's doing fine. Minato asks Harima how the townsfolk are doing and learns that everyone has gone back to their routines after being cured of the evil spirits. Harima also tells him that the people are preparing to begin the Hojo festival soon in Yamagami's honor. Hearing this, Yamagami returns to his normal form as the respect of all the townsfolk powers his body. Somehow, the respect ends up being too much, and Yamagami starts glowing his signature radiant shine. After realizing that he's blinding Minato, Yamagami tones his brilliance down a little. Then, Minato notices that Tenko is still watching him from a distance. He thanks her for helping him against the large spirit, and she nods and leaves. While leaving, Tenko thinks that Yamagami proved her wrong by helping a person with a truly good heart. Meanwhile, in another part of town, the two quack exorcists go around, trying to figure out what to do. Suddenly, they encounter a strange man on their path. The man reveals that he's also an exorcist, and he calls out the two quacks for endangering all the townsfolk. To punish them for their sins, he calls forth his exorcist minions and attacks them both. Afterward, Minato attends the Hojo festival with Yamagami and the others. While the ferrets munch on some stall food, Minato tries to play a game. Unfortunately, he completely fails at the game, so Yamagami cheats to help him win the prize. After getting the prize, Minato asks Yamagami if he likes the food at the festival. While Yamagami admits that the food is good, nearby Ichigo proudly advertises his bean buns as the favorite food of the town's holy dog. Yamagami is offended by getting misidentified, but he can only fume in anger since he can't interact with the common townsfolk. Nearby, Harima and the other exorcists also enjoy the different festival stalls they like. Soon, the final fireworks begin, and everyone watches the show with joy. Some days later, in the exorcist headquarters, Katsuragi asks Harima how the two quack exorcists are doing. Harima explains that the quacks have quietly returned to their hometown and are behaving like good boys. However, he feels confused, since when he first found the exorcists, they were already arrested and tied up by someone else. Katsuragi begins to explain who that person was, but before he can say anything, Horikawa bursts into the room with news of another evil spirit attack. Katsuragi feels annoyed by the work call, but Harima immediately begins leaving. Meanwhile, Ichijo creeps behind Horikawa, upset that she keeps moving around without telling him. Although Ichijo sincerely feels worried for her, Horikawa gets annoyed, and she uses the wind chime sound effect to give him PTSD again. Back in the Kusunoki house, Minato soaks in the hot bath with Yamagami. Soon, Tsumugi also comes over, so Minato invites her to join them. She accepts the invitation, then apologizes to Minato Minato for Tenko's harsh words earlier. Minato doesn't think she did anything wrong, recalling that Tenko's help was crucial in defeating the evil spirit boss. Then, he tells Tsumugi to just enjoy the bath and have lunch with everyone. She happily agrees and takes a good soak in the bath before enjoying the lovely homemade lunch made by Minato. Fujin and Reijin also join them for lunch, but before they can begin, Ebi pops up from the pond as well. Before he can even talk to Minato, he notices the Kirin staring at him, and both of them engage in a fierce stare down for some reason. Out of nowhere, Susanoo also pops up and starts eating like he was invited to a free buffet. Minato wonders why he's even here, so Susanoo claims he's just back for more training. In front of Yamagami's uninterested eyes, he starts dragging Minato away to give him some more special training. Thankfully, Amaterasu shows up to stop him. In front of his angry big sister, Susanoo is completely helpless. He tries to run away, but she catches him and starts chewing him out for bothering other people. Minato laughs at Susanoo's suffering, while Arachi congratulates Yamagami for surviving the evil spirit crisis. He offers him a toast to celebrate, but Yamagami digs into his special sweets instead. Minato looks around, watching everyone interact, and he feels completely at peace looking around the lively house. Soon, he gets a call from his mom and thanks her for sending a bunch of gifts. Minato's mom also explains that her business has been going great, so everything is good back at home. She thanks him for sending over the local bean buns, explaining that everyone is enjoying them. Inside the Kusunoki Inn, Minato's old spirit friends also enjoy his gifts while recalling their memories. On the phone, Minato's mom asks him to come back home, but he refuses, explaining that he has found a great place to spend time with his friends. His mom nods, and then she reminds him to check out all the sweets she sent over. Minato accepts her offer and gives the sweets to Yamagami, who seems to really enjoy it. After watching him fuss over the treat, Minato explains that it's actually a chewing gum for dogs. Hearing this, Yamagami gets upset and insists that he's a wolf. Then, the bell rings, so Minato goes to greet Haruma as usual. After giving him another batch of talismans to support his work, Minato receives another gift from Haruma. He asks Haruma to come inside and have the food with everyone else, but Haruma explains that he needs to take care of another evil spirit in town. After he leaves, Minato serves the new gifts to the three ferrets. Yamagami gets upset that he's getting chewing gum while the others get sweets, so Minato gives him a share from the sweets as well. After taking a few bites, Yamagami calms down and starts enjoying his food. Nearby, the Kirin learns that this particular food is called dorayaki. Since Dora is the Japanese word for a metal gong, the Kirin feels creeped out that Minato eats this stuff. Meanwhile, in the garden, Ho-Oh continues his singing lessons. After teaching the other birds, he focuses on the one bird that always fails to sing. Because of Ho-Oh's careful training, the failing bird finally produces a proper song this time. Ho-Oh congratulates the bird for its success before returning to Minato. Sometime later, Yamagami notices Minato deep in thought. Minato explains that he really enjoys taking care of the Kusunoki household, so he wants to stay with him as long as he can. Then, he notices the spirit orb glowing nearby. As Minato takes a closer look, he wonders if the spirit inside is about to wake up. He brings over the orb to Yamagami, which soon glows and reveals a small flying squirrel. Minato is surprised by the squirrel, but Yamagami quickly accepts it as his minion. After welcoming yet another member to the Kusunoki family, Minato smiles, looking forward to the exciting adventures awaiting him and his friends. That was episode 12. Subscribe to not miss next part and watch next video on screen.